Good evening. In compliance with Chapter 551 Open Meetings of the Texas Government Code, I call to order an information session of the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District for Thursday, May 8th, 2025 at 6:01 p.m. A quorum of the board is physically present at Austin ISD Central Office to conduct this meeting. This meeting is being broadcast on cable channel 22 through Spectrum, Astound Broadband, and on channel 99 through AT&T Uverse. Closed captioning in English is available on these platforms for individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Next is an opportunity for the public to share comments with the board. This time allows speakers to comment publicly on any topic of their choosing. And then after that, we're going to have a very brief executive session. We have time for up to 60 speakers. As a reminder, the district continues to provide time during regular voting meetings of the board to hear from the public about agenda items for consideration and vote. This is an opportunity for the board to take part in listening to our community. While we wish we could respond or provide feedback, we are required to limit our questions to requests for clarification or follow-up directly to the administration. Members of the public wishing to participate in the public comment portion of our meeting called a dedicated Austin ISD phone line in advance of the meeting to sign up to speak in person or to audio record their remarks. Tonight we have 6 people who signed up to speak in person, and we have 54 who left a recorded message. We will now move to in-person testimony. In order to provide as many opportunities for input as possible within a limited time period at this meeting, each speaker will be allotted 1 minute. No substitutions or yielding of time to others is permitted. Callers who signed up to speak in person are welcome to come to the microphone when their name is called. As you come up to the microphone, please press the power button. There's a device that will light up as you move through your 1 minute of allotted time. When the buzzer sounds, please make a final thought in 1 sentence. Again, we ask that whether you come to give a complaint or praise, that you reference any staff member by position or by abbreviated last name. We ask that all audience members, whether speaking or not, please show respect for others at all times. The Office of Translation and Interpretation provides a Spanish language translator for audience members who need assistance when addressing trustees or need assistance understanding comments made to trustees during public testimony. If translation is required, the speaker will be given twice the allotted time. If you need this service during other portions of the meeting, please speak with the interpreter, Victor Rodriguez. And Mr. Rodriguez, can you back there in the back? Thank you. And Mr. Rodriguez will repeat portions of this message in Spanish.
Thank you. Ahora pasamos al testimonio público sobre los asuntos en la agenda consensuada. Los miembros del público que deseaban participar en la parte del testimonio público de nuestra Junta llamaron a una línea telefónica de la AISD dedicada para esto antes de la Junta para inscribirse, para hablar en persona o para grabar sus comentarios en audio. Esta noche tenemos a 6 personas quienes se inscribieron para hablar en persona y tenemos a 54 quienes dejaron un mensaje grabado. Ahora pasaremos al testimonio en persona para dar tantas oportunidades de opinar como sea posible dentro de un periodo de tiempo limitado en esta Junta. Se le dará 1 minuto a cada participante. No se permiten sustituciones ni cederles tiempo a otras personas. Las personas que llamaron para inscribirse para hablar en persona pueden venir al micrófono cuando escuchen su nombre. Cuando vengan al micrófono hay un dispositivo en el que se encenderá una luz a medida que pase 1 minuto. Cuando suene el timbre, concluyan su idea con una oración final. Nuevamente les pedimos que, ya sea que vengan a dar una queja o un elogio, mencionen al miembro del personal por su puesto o apellido abreviado. Les pedimos a todos los miembros de la audiencia, al público, que ya sea que estén hablando o no, por favor muestren respeto a los demás en todo momento. La Oficina de Traducción e Interpretación provee un intérprete del idioma español, su servidor, para los miembros de la audiencia que necesiten ayuda para dirigirse a los miembros de la mesa directiva o para entender los comentarios que hagan los miembros de la mesa directiva durante el testimonio público. Si se requiere interpretación, se le dará el doble del tiempo al participante. Si necesita este servicio durante estas otras partes de la Junta, por favor, hable con un servidor, Víctor Rodríguez. Gracias.
Thank you. Our in-person speakers for tonight, I'll call 3 people to the microphone at once. First 3 are Addison McKenna, Minda Anderson, and Steve Swanson. And you may begin when you're ready.
President Basil.
And yes, do we want to give Ms. McKenna a minute to, are you interested in? Mix McKenna, pardon me, thank you. Do we want to give Mix McKenna a chance to, would you like a minute to share what? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next is Minda Anderson. Not here. Okay, next is Steve Swanson.
Good evening. My communication won't be nearly as good as hers. My time at Dobie Middle School, hearing Superintendent Sakura tell the community on numerous occasions, TEA has not accepted plans for Dobie Middle School, provides the evidence TEA is not doing its lawful job to help AISD in planning. The board must take action to help AISD serve our students, hold TEA accountable. As you may know, the Texas Education Code states in section 11.002, the school districts have the primary responsibility for implementing the state's public system of public education. Additional sections in the code clearly describe the board's privilege and responsibility to hold TEA accountable, to serve our superintendent, staff, parents, and community in planning for and serving the needs of students before test scores matter. Please see the handout I shared with you. Also, the handouts previously shared with the board also provide more information regarding this. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers, Alan Weeks, Cheryl Bradley, and Maria Rios. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Cheryl Bradley, a former trustee, and I'm here to speak on something a little different from here, although I support the schools. You all have put a parking fee on graduations from Berger and the PAC. And I can't understand for the life of me why you would charge families and friends to come and see their students graduate. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. That is an auspicious occasion. It's a major milestone and one this district should be proud of. And you're going to put a $10 parking fee if they pay now, and a $15 parking fee if they pay at the gate. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. You all can do better. And I know we can't sit up and talk about it's the state funding to the district or what have you. You can figure out a way to make that money up, but you do not charge families and friends to come and see their child graduate. And you definitely don't use a free shuttle as an excuse. You got to do better. You just cannot do that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next is Maria Rios and then Minda Anderson.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Ríos. Yo vengo a representar a mi escuela WET y a las demás escuelas, a la Dobie, a la Burnett.
Good afternoon. My name is Maria Rios. I come representing my school, Webb, Dobie, and Burnett.
Yo he estado en WET ya hace mucho tiempo. Yo he estado trabajando con los niños. Yo he pasado muchas cosas en mi vida, pero para mí WET ha sido mi casa porque
I've been at Webb for many years, and I've worked with a lot of children, and Webb has been my home.
yo quiero contarles, mis maestros, mi director, todos somos como una familia. Nosotros unos a otros nos apoyamos en la escuela y especialmente apoyamos a los niños que son más importantes todavía que nosotros.
We're a family. The principal, teachers, parents are all a family, but we're here to support the students, support the school, because we've been a family for a long time.
Yo estoy indignada hoy en estos días porque a mi director me lo dominaron como el director del año y no es posible que él él ya no va a existir en la escuela. ¿Cómo es posible eso?
I'm somewhat offended. The principal was named Principal of the Year, and now, just recently, they've been told that he's no longer going to be the principal there at the school. How is that possible?
Y mis maestros también, especialmente todos mis maestros, que hemos estado trabajando juntos para sacar este año a los niños adelante. Ellos, yo pienso que han trabajado este año lo más que han podido con los niños.
And especially the teachers. Our teachers have been working arduously with the students, and how is it possible that they'll be also out of a job? They've been working with their students. Continúe todavía.
No es posible que usted nos haya dicho que no hay fondos para la escuela. ¿Cómo le quiere decir usted que no hay fondos y quiere poner otro personal en nuestra escuela? En nuestra escuela, que es una comunidad que nosotros hemos estado luchando por los niños.
How is it possible that they say that there's no funds for the school when you're going to bring another administration, you're going to pay for them? How is it possible? This is our school, and we're here for the students.
Yo estoy ahorita peleando por mis niños. Yo no quiero que cierren mi escuela, no quiero que retiren a mis maestros, no quiero que retiren a mi director.
I am fighting for my school. I don't want my principal to leave. I don't want the teachers to leave. I don't want the students to leave.
Yo ahorita he estado un poco enferma, pero los niños son los que a mí me han levantado, me han hecho que yo crezca más, y para mí ellos son muy especiales.
I have been somewhat ill lately, but it's the students who have picked me up. They're really special for me. They're the ones who actually are supporting or giving me this I guess, the support to come here.
Yo espero que usted tenga un poco de conciencia en su cabeza y piense en los niños, piense en mis maestros.
I'm asking you that you to think about our kids and think about our teachers.
Y gracias por su apoyo. Necesitamos tiempo para los otros. Muchísimas gracias.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next is Minda Anderson and Alan Weeks.
Good evening. My name is Minda Anderson, and I'm a National Board Certified Teacher Librarian. I've been thinking about our district scorecard and the fact that our fourth graders and eighth graders scored above average in reading compared to the state's average, according to the National Assessment of Education Progress. And I know this is thanks in large part to the hard work of our reading teachers, but I also have to think some of it is thanks to the district support for our school libraries. As we know, Texas does not require or fund school librarians and library programs, unlike many other states. But Austin ISD chooses to prioritize our kids and success by funding certified librarians at every campus through budget crunches. And as we know, research shows that graduation rates, test scores, literacy rates are positively connected with having campus librarians. So we are seeing the results of your support for our kids in libraries. And I just have to add, I have been lucky enough to work with and collaborate with some district staff this semester on the future of school librarians in Austin ISD, and I am really excited about the future and the support for our kids, so thank y'all.
Good evening, trustees and superintendent. I just wanted to point out some sections of the Texas Education Code that I think apply to this situation. In 2017, I helped write some guidance around how to prepare targeted improvement plans. These plans had been more top-down, and we put in very specifically with the House Public Education Committee a really good process about working with the campus, about involving parents, community, and teachers in creating plans, and an order for doing this, at which point then plans would be posted, there'd be public hearings, and then they'd be approved by the board. And AISD, my experience has always been AISD's been a respecter of process. And I'm really concerned right now that I don't see, if you look at Chapter 39A, .051 and continuing, that we're not following the process, that decisions have been made and actions have been made before a plan has been approved. I'd ask you to read that, and I'd like to follow up with you on whether the statutes in this case are being followed. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to all of our in-person speakers. We will now move on to our recorded comments.
My name is Eric Bianca, and I'm a student at Dobie Middle School. I think I should leave Dobie the same with the same staff because it's not just a school no more. It's part of the community. It's been here for 50 years, and even though y'all didn't give us enough resources, we turned nothing into something. So that's unfair that y'all just trying to change Dobie. Dobie is not a school. It's part of Rumber. My name is Eric Fernando Villafranca. Remember that.
Me llamo Víctor, tengo 12 años y soy estudiante de la web. Empecé a la escuela en enero y les vengo a compartir lo que escribí. Yo no estoy de acuerdo por lo que está pasando y porque he pasado buenas experiencias con los maestros y siempre me han apoyado. Y les quiero agradecer por enseñarme el inglés y por ser paciente con nosotros.
This is an interpretation into English message. Hi, I am 12 years old and I am a student at Webb. I started at the school in January and I'm here to share what I wrote. I don't agree with what's happening because I have had good experiences with the teachers and they have always supported me. And I want to thank them for teaching me English and for being patient with us.
Me gustaría que ninguno de los profesores cambiaran y también las maestras, porque nos enseñaron muchas cosas que no lo sabíamos, porque ellos son los mejores. Soy Víctor Rodrigo Chocoste, estudiante de web de ELDA.
This is an interpretation into English of a message from I would like for no teachers to be replaced because they have taught us so many things that we did not know, and they are the best. I am Victor Rodrigo Chicostle, a web student of ETLA.
¿Cuelgo? Oh. Sí, okay, ya. Tengo que leer. Okay. Digo mi nombre. Hola, mi nombre es y soy estudiante de ELDA de 6 grado. Yo no estoy de acuerdo con el distrito porque yo con los maestros de ELDA he tenido buenos recuerdos con cada uno de los maestros y los extrañaré porque he tenido buenas experiencias con ellos. Espero que el siguiente año los vea. Silencio.
This is an interpretation into English of a message from Hello, my name is Naidi, and I am an EDLA student, 6th grade, and I do not agree with the district because I have had great memories with the teachers from EDLA, with each and every one of them. I have had great experiences with them, and I hope to keep having them next year.
Bueno, pues mi nombre es, yo soy de 6º grado de ELDA. Bueno, pues lo que yo voy a decir es sobre lo de los maestros. Bueno, yo no estoy de acuerdo con el distrito que quieren cambiar a los maestros. La razón por qué no quiero que cambien a los maestros es porque he tenido mucha relación con ellos, les he tenido mucha confianza y mucho cariño y no estoy de acuerdo de que los cambien porque yo no me sentí muy bien cuando vi a los maestros llorar y pues me dolió cuando los maestros empezaron a llorar porque los iban a cambiar y no me gustó eso y no quiero que los cambien porque ellos son buenos maestros y ellos se esfuerzan para ayudar a los niños que no saben leer o escribir. Ellos se esfuerzan mucho para que ellos sepan eso.
Okay. Muy bien, bien hecho. Gracias por compartirte.
This is an interpretation into English of a message from a 6th grade student from EDLA. And what I have to say is regarding our teachers. I do not agree with the district that wants to replace our teachers. The reason being is that I have a great relationship with them, and they are trustworthy, and I like them dearly. And I do not agree that they be replaced, because I did not feel too well when I saw teachers weep, and it hurts me when I saw them weep, and I do not want them replaced, and I did not like that, and I do not want them replaced because they are good teachers, and they make a lot of effort to help students who do not know how to read and write. They make a lot of effort in helping them learn.
¿Yo puedo? ¿Eres tú acá? ¿O tengo que decir? Ok, hola, soy Fabiana y soy una estudiante de Web Middle School. Hoy todos en la escuela estábamos hablando sobre lo que está ocurriendo, que el siguiente año los profesores serán cambiados. Sobre esta situación yo me siento triste porque son todos los profesores que he conocido, además todos nosotros les tenemos mucha confianza. ¿Aquí?
This is an interpretation into English from this message. I am a student at Webb Middle School. Today, everybody in the school was talking about what is happening. That next year the teachers will be changed. About this situation, I feel sad because they are all the teachers I have known. Besides, we all have a lot of confidence in them.
Hi, my name is student for Web, and I don't know agree with what is happening with the district because I had a good experience with the teacher, especially those in Israel. It is not fair that they change the teacher because they have made efforts, and thank you for that. That is why I do not agree.
Hello, I'm an 8th grade student at Dolby Middle School, and I think it's not fair what y'all decided with our school. Younger students may not feel comfortable at other schools, like, for example, like Westview schools. I have a younger sister in 6th grade, and she's talked to me about how she wouldn't feel comfortable going to any other school because she's made many friends, and it's way more convenient for my parents since it's the closest middle school that are in charter schools. Thank you.
Hola, me llamo Pina Gutiérrez y soy un estudiante de Dolby Middle School.
This is an interpretation into English of student Gutierrez. Hi, my name is and I'm a student at Dolby Middle School.
Hello, my name is Ray, and I'm in 8th grade here at Dolby Middle School. The situation that is going on right now doesn't feel right to me. The teachers have no fault for all of this. They always care for us, and they always try to make this school better for us. We have after-school programs, band, mariachi, and even dance. If they take this away from us, what fun can we have? We have all of this because our teachers care about us. If we turn this into our charter school, what fun will we have? Thank you.
Hey, I am an 8th grade student here at Dolby Middle School, and I just wanted to specify some things about why shouldn't Dolby turn into a charter school. Dolby is a very beautiful and unique school. What makes this school unique is that there's a lot of strong, intelligent minds and voices. And I also think the teachers and our admin are very nice and thoughtful to the students. They really care about us, so I hope you don't fire them because they are really helping us getting through everything while they're going through stuff as well.
Buenos días, soy un estudiante de 8º grado de Dolby Middle School. Quiero hablar sobre hablar sobre lo que está pasando en la escuela actualmente. Nosotros no solo somos unos grados de starter, somos una comunidad que hemos hecho amigos, los programas que hay después de escuela, que no son puntajes de exámenes, pero nos ayuda para nuestro futuro. La escuela no ocupa convertirse en una escuela autónoma, ocupamos que inviertan en nosotros, ocupamos más maestros, otra consejera, más materiales y que remodelen la escuela. Muchas gracias.
This is an interpretation into English from an 8th grade student at Dobie Middle School. Good morning. I'm an 8th grade student at Dobie Middle School. I want to talk about what's currently happening at our school. We are not only representing STAR test grades, we are a community. We have made friends. The programs available after school. We are not test scores, but it helps us for our future. The school does not need to become a charter school. We need you to invest in us. We need more teachers under the counselor and more materials and to not move the school. Thank you.
Student here at Adobe. Talk about why y'all shouldn't turn into a charter school. We're from the outside we look like a bad school, but for you have to get to know us or like make the final decision because y'all really don't know us. Y'all judge us just because of things that y'all see, the fights and stuff like that. And I think you shouldn't do that. I think you should give us one more chance so we can show you how good of a school we are, not just because of our test scores. That doesn't, it matters, but not as much like that. Like yeah. And to the finest. And I don't like the fact that the West Side parents are talking bad and slandering our names around and saying that we're a dangerous hazard or we're like bad and that we're a safety concern. And I don't like that because we're really not that bad and you just got to get to know us. And thank you for your time. Bye.
Buenos días, soy una estudiante de octavo grado de Dobie. Quiero dar mi opinión sobre lo que ha estado pasando últimamente en Dobie y con mucho respeto les digo que si se sienten con el derecho de exigirnos buenos puntajes o tener una buena calificación en el STAR, nosotros también, los estudiantes, tenemos el derecho de exigirles que inviertan en nuestra escuela, que en vez de cambiar la manera en la que se está dirigiendo, que mejor nos brinden su apoyo colaborando con maestros, consejeros y materiales para aprender con dignidad. No pedimos mucho, solamente pedimos que se nos escuche nuestra voz y que sean considerados con todos nosotros. Dobie es Dobie gracias a los directores y maestros. No necesitamos nuevos directores. Holloway, Walker y Ms. López son los mejores directores y tienen la responsabilidad suficiente de dirigir una escuela como la nuestra. Gracias.
This is an interpretation into English of a message. Good morning, I'm Evelyn Ponce, an 8th grade student from Dobie. I want to give my opinion of what's happening recently at Dobie. And with all due respect, I'll say that if you feel you have the right to demand good scores or good grades in the STAR tests, we too as students have the right to demand that you invest in our schools. Instead of replacing the way the school is being managed, that you provide support by collaborating with teachers, counselors, and materials to be used in teaching with dignity. We're not asking for much, we only ask that our voices be heard and that you be considerate with all of us. Dobie is Dobie thanks to the administrators and teachers. We do not need new administrators. Holloway, Walker, and Ms. Lopez are the best administrators, and they are responsible enough to manage a school such as ours.
Hola, mi nombre es el programa de Elda. Yo estoy muy agradecida con la escuela secundaria web porque todos los maestros se han preocupado por todos y cada uno de los estudiantes del campus, porque siempre son muy amables y porque siempre nos enseñan cosas nuevas. Yo estoy muy agradecida con todos los maestros de Elda porque ellos me han enseñado muchas cosas nuevas como matemáticas, inglés, ciencias e historia. Estoy muy agradecida porque he logrado cosas que jamás pensé que iba a lograr y también porque en este año y en el pasado he ganado muchos reconocimientos. También estoy muy agradecida con todos los demás maestros, pero sobre todo estoy más que agradecida con Mr. Coyo, Miss Flores, Miss Maduro y Mr. Carson, porque gracias a ellos el campus mejoró mucho y todas sus grandes ideas han ayudado a crecer el campus y nos han enseñado que también podemos aprender con diversión.
This is an interpretation into English of Hannah's message, and I'm in the EDNA program. I am very thankful to Webb Middle School because all the teachers have cared for us and for each and every one of the campus students, because they are always very kind and because they always teach us new things. I am very thankful to all the EDNA teachers because they have taught me many new things, such as math, English, science, and history. I am very thankful because I have accomplished things I never thought I would accomplish, and also because this year I have won many recognitions. I am also very thankful to all the other teachers, but mostly I am more than thankful to Mr. Coyle, Ms. Flores, Ms. Maduro, and Mr. Carson, because thanks to them the campus improved a lot, and all of their great ideas have helped elevate the campus, and they have taught us that we can also learn while having fun.
Go, you read it. Hi, I'm a student at Dobie Middle School, and what is happening to my school is so unfair. We should be able to go to school without having to worry about the future of our school and the effect it has on all our teachers. Our teachers and admins have done all they could to help us with the little bits of materials and supplies the district gives us. Y'all like to belittle us and blame our teachers and admins and have all these stereotypes on Dobie, even though our school is not how y'all make it seem. There's many intelligent and smart kids that go there that y'all choose to make stereotypes on without even actually knowing them. If you choose to change it to a charter school, I can guarantee that there will be an increase of kids who drop out and extra. Dobie is a great school with great kids and teachers. I hope y'all can realize that.
Soy Emily Sotero del programa de ELDA. Webb es una de las escuelas más lindas en cuestión a sus maestros y todos los que trabajan ahí. La institución hizo y hasta ahora hace muchos viajes muy divertidos. El año pasado yo fui a un viaje por parte de banda y fue una de las experiencias. Cuando hicimos examen, algunos nos llevaron al cine. Espero que con su apoyo podamos seguir teniendo esos viajes. En el programa de ELDA hay muchos maestros tan responsables. Mr. Yanis y Miss Mendek son maestros que se encargan de nuestro aprendizaje con la lengua. Son maestros de mucho respeto. He aprendido muchas cosas con ellos, bastantes reglas. Mr. Soto y Mr. Napoli son maestros de matemáticas. Con Mr. Napoli aprendí bastantes cosas. Me sirvieron mucho en Soto. En la clase de Soto he aprendido bastantes con las cosas que me siento que podría trabajar en algunas cosas que me gustan. Gracias a enseñarnos cada día cosas nuevas. Gracias a esos maestros todos los días hemos aprendido. Estamos muy agradecidos con todos los maestros. Mr. Coyo es uno de los mejores maestros de la institución.
This is an interpretation into English message. I'm Emily Sotelo of the ELDAS program. Webb is one of the nicest schools in terms of its teachers and everyone who works there. The institution did and still does a lot of fun trips. Last year, I went on a band trip, and it was one of the experiences when we took the exam and some of us were taken to the movies. I hope that with your support we can continue to have those trips. In the program of ELDA, there are many teachers so responsible. These are teachers who are in charge of our language learning. They are teachers with a lot of respect. I have learned a lot of things with them. A lot of rules. Our teachers in math. With Nicholas, I learned a lot of things. They were very useful to me, and in Mito's class, I have learned a lot of things that I feel I could work on some things that I like. Thank you for teaching us new things every day. Thanks to those teachers every day that we have learned. We are very grateful to all teachers. Miss is one of the best teachers in the institution.
Hello, my name has been 7 months. I'm doing this because it's crazy that the big teacher we leave because the teacher have too much to be fight because of school problem. Me siento orgulloso de mí mismo, de mis maestros, porque ellos me ayudaron cuando entré a esa escuela. Yo no sabía nada de inglés, lo estoy aprendiendo gracias a mis maestros. La principal de la escuela siempre está muy atenta. Toda la escuela está muy triste porque van a despedir a todos los maestros.
This is an interpretation into English of the Spanish portion of a message. I feel proud of my teachers because they helped me when I enrolled at this school. I knew no English and I have been learning it thanks to my teachers. The school principal is always very helpful. The entire school is very sad because of all the teachers being fired.
Hola, soy de Honduras, soy estudiante de Dobie y de mi parte no me gustaría que despidieran a los maestros porque ellos son muy buenas personas como Miss María y todos ellos son muy amables. Desde que llegué a esta escuela no me han tratado bien. Miss María es como mi segunda abuela porque me quiere como a los demás estudiantes. Yo en las mañanas le ayudo a juntar la basura y en el almuerzo siempre nos acompaña en el almuerzo y siempre me da consejos.
This is an interpretation into English of a message. David, I am from Honduras. I am a student from Dobie, and on my behalf, I would not like for you to fire our teachers because they are fine people, like Ms. Maria, and all of them are very kind. Ever since I arrived at the school, they have treated me well. Ms. Maria is like a second grandmother because she likes me. Along with other students, I help her pick up trash in the morning, and she always joins us during lunch, and she always offers me advice.
Hello, my name is I am a student of Dobie Middle School. In Dobie, everybody is learning the world united, but all that is thanks to the teacher. En Dobie no importa de qué país seas o qué lenguaje hables, en Dobie todos son iguales. En Dobie diario aprendes algo nuevo porque todos los maestros son amables.
Hola, soy un estudiante de Dobie Middle School, uno de los estudiantes inmigrantes que hay en las clases de los maestros de Dobie, y no es posible que los vayan a reemplazar ya que ellos hacen todo lo posible por enseñarnos. También es posible que reemplacen a la señora María, ya que es como una abuelita para los estudiantes, ya que nos aconseja y nos apoya cuando lo necesitamos. Por esas razones, sería una injusticia que reemplazaran a todos los trabajadores de Dobie.
This is an interpretation into English message. Hi, I am a student at Dobie Middle School. I am one of the immigrant students in the classes of teachers at Dobie, and there is no way they will be replaced. since they do everything possible to teach us. It is also possible that Miss Maria will be replaced, but she is like a grandma to the students, since she gives us advice and supports us when we need it. Because of these reasons, it would be unfair to replace all the employees at Dobie.
Hello, my name is Ella. I am an 8th grader, and I just have to say Dobie is a good school because we got good teachers and good admins, and we have after-school programs. You can turn Dobie into charter school because we have a good community. We have the right to continue this community, and Dobie is la mera pija.
Hello, I am an 8th grade student at Dobie Middle School. My opinion on the board's choices they gave Dobie are ridiculous. I think the higher power wants browns and blacks to feel like an outcast since other schools say we are a safety hazard against others. I feel very offended about that. Everyone is a person. Everyone has a meaning to them. We're not all different. We're literally the same person. The skin tone, it does not matter. We all do the same thing, whether it is different or not. We are all human. And I have the right to say this, and it's very ridiculous that we are a safety hazard because we are just children. Thank you.
This is Sharon Vane, the parent of 2 AISD graduates. You have much on your plate, and yet there is much more to do for our kids. I urge you to use this painful crossroads as a chance to truly tear down the silos, and as many of you have already expressed, consider how your decisions now get us closer to the district we need. Who has been neglected for too long, and who needs us the most right now? How can we begin to repair the fractures of yesterday and pave the way for a better tomorrow? These may feel like existential questions, but it can be all too easy to pinball in chaos. You have tools to guide you, like the long-range plan. These decisions are not just about 3 middle schools or campus consolidations, but also about who we are and what we value. I encourage you to keep a truly equitable vision in mind. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Miriam. I'm from the ELDA program, where middle school is a school where many students have learned. I love the teachers care about the students, and Mr. Coyo is a principal who does everything to make sure the students are well and have fun. The counselors help the students a lot with whatever they need, and Ms. Maduro will watch, make sure the children don't fight, and that they do well in everything and in their studies. And there are substitutes who help the teacher when they are absent from school.
Muy bien. ¿Qué te pareció? Fácil, ¿no?
Sí.
Yeah, okay. ¿Ya has grabado? ¿Cómo te sientes ahora que lo has hecho? Ahora sabes cómo.
My name is Tracy Dunlap. I work as a teacher at Maplewood, and I'm a proud member of Education Austin. I'm calling about the turnaround plans for Dobie, Webb, and Burnett Middle Schools. We cannot allow these decisions to be made behind closed doors. All proposed cuts, reorganizations, and changes in pay structures must be brought to consultation first. Our workers' voices are not optional, they are essential. These are the people who keep our schools running and care for our students every single day. For the employees impacted by these changes, I urge you to treat them with the dignity and care they deserve. These people are not just numbers in a budget, they're members of our community. AISD must prioritize helping them find new positions they want before filling those roles elsewhere. Let's put people over policy. Finally, the community deserves honesty and transparency. We ask you to have an open and real conversation with us about all the options on the table. The stakes are too high for anything less. Please do what's right for our workers, for our schools, and for our community. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Emily Sharon, and I work as a teaching assistant at Patton Elementary. I'm also a proud member of Education Austin. I'm here tonight to ensure the turnaround plans for Dobie, Webb, and Burnett are not being pushed forward in the shadows. We will not stand for it. No backroom deals, no silent cuts, and no decisions made without us. Every proposed reorganization, every threat to payer position must go through consultation. We are not asking for a favor. We're demanding the respect that every educator, staff member, community member, and student deserves. Our voices are not optional. Do not shuffle people around like budget lines. Treat those impacted with dignity and respect. Do what's right. Listen to us. Work with us. The time is now. Thank you, and happy Teacher Appreciation Week to all my hardworking colleagues.
Hello, I'm Ika Fernandez, and I just wanted to let my opinion go with y'all that I don't appreciate how y'all try to post our web because our teachers work diligently to support us, because not all of the teachers have supported us the way before. Our school is not an F school. We don't believe our school is an F school. We can always improve. Our school was an F school beforehand, before our principal and the best assistant principals were here. I just wanted to let you know about my opinions and how this is very unfair to us and our staff. Thank you.
Mi nombre es Martínez y tengo una niña en web. Y llamo para decirle que no quiero que cambien la administración de esta escuela. Ellos han estado trabajando bien con los niños y pues si lo cambian pues sería como comenzar de nuevo, no sé. Ahorita estamos muy contentos con la administración que está, los niños van muy bien y pues pediría que no los cambie.
This is an interpretation into English. I have a daughter at Webb. I'm calling to request that you do not do away with the school administration. They have been working well with our children, and so if it is changed, it will be like starting over. Currently, we are happy with the administration that is in place. Children are doing well, and I would request that it not be changed.
My name is Webb Middle School. I think what's good about the school is he tries his hardest to make the school more better and the teachers. And I think Mr. helps us a lot because he really likes the students a lot. She really likes to help them. And I think that the superintendent has to come to our school and like see from the inside what is it about.
Hello, I'm from Webb Middle School. I think Webb should be open because it helps us a lot. Like for trumpet, we did a lot of concerts, and like at the end of the year, we're gonna go to a field trip of Austin Park's Pizza, and it means a lot because like he helps a lot. I didn't know how to play trumpet. He teach me a lot. Now I'm like a good student at trumpet, and I think it's a good principal because he did a lot of field trips. I went to a cave. There was like a lot of stuff that I didn't know about caves, and I see bats and all that. And I think the Minister of Webb should keep this school open because it's a great school. Like our teachers help us like grow in our math and all that, and I think Webb should be open.
Hi, I'm a Webb student, and I think we shouldn't close Webb because all of my teachers have helped me through a lot. And my other school, I didn't know nothing, and when I came here, I learned more. And I do band, and the trombone I wasn't really good, but I learned a lot from. And all my electives, they help me a lot, and they help me with stuff they're gonna happen through a life. And for sports, I was never into sports, but this school brought me into sports, and that's why I wouldn't want it to close.
Hello, my name is Rachel Preston, and I work as a teacher at LASA. I'm a proud member of Education Austin, and I'm calling to advocate for our students and staff. I urge you to preserve all staff positions that work directly with students. Every person in a school plays a vital role, and losing these staff members would negatively impact our students' daily lives. Regarding Burnett and Webb Middle Schools, AIC must prioritize helping impacted employees find new positions they want before hiring externally. These staff members deserve our support during these transitions. Finally, I ask AIC to have an honest conversation about the community, about real options available, and truly listen to what the community wants. Transparency and trust are key. Thank you for your time and for your commitment to doing what's best for our schools.
Hola, buenas tardes. Soy madre de que estudia en la web school y estoy muy indignada de que quieran cambiar al director y a los maestros y entonces supuestamente que quieren cerrar la escuela y eso me tiene muy indignada tanto como a mí como padre de familia y como a mi hijo, porque mi hijo tiene sus calificaciones normal, altas. Y entonces para que cambien de maestro, eso no se me hace justo, porque el director, desde que ese director está, se ha calmado que los niños anden en grupo afuera, que ya no entran a clase. Ese director se ha encargado de hacer buen trabajo y no quiero que salga y tampoco los maestros porque ya ya conocemos a los maestros y por eso yo alzo mi voz tanto como por mi hijo y por su calificación y dicen que van a cerrar la escuela por
This is an interpretation into English of the previous message. Hi, good afternoon. I am the mother of studies at Web Middle, and I am outraged that they want to change the principal and the teachers. And so supposedly they want to close the school, and that makes me outraged, both me as a parent as well as my son. Because my son has normal high grades, so changing his teacher doesn't seem fair to me. Because the principal, since that principal has been here, the children being in groups outside and not going into class has decreased. That principal has made sure to do a good job, and I don't want him to leave, or the teachers, because we already know the teachers, and that is why I am raising my voice, both for my son and for his grades. And they say the school will be closed because
Hi, my name is Cecilia Leonard, and I'm the Math Department Chair at Webb Middle School. I understand the need for strategic staffing, but replacing the entire Webb staff is not strategy, it's devastation. Our students rely on us. We are their stability, their community, and their safe place. We're not resistant to change. We are already doing the hard work. We've already come together to create a detailed plan that can help us make real progress. We even got off federal IR without meaningful district support. Imagine what we could do with it. But being told to start looking for jobs before a board vote, seeing our jobs posted and a job fair held to replace us before any decision has even been made is not just disheartening, it's disrespectful. We're asking you to invest in us, not erase us. Give us the training, the coaching, and the leadership support that we need. Let us finish what we've started. We're not giving up on Webb. I hope you don't either.
That is in 6th grade, and I have some questions for you. What's going to happen if Dobie does turn into a charter school? Why should we have to let our admin go when they have been there for us and helped us the most? Dobie is such an amazing school and has helped me with many things that I don't get at any other schools. For example, Miss Brown Gomez, she teaches ELAR and newspaper, and she has helped me understand English more than I already do. These changes have affected me and will continue to affect me in many ways, especially because my teachers and admin will no longer be here and be replaced with complete strangers that probably don't even care about us or care to get to know us.
After we start.
Dear the AISD district.
Your name. Name, first name and last name, and say your AISD student.
I'm an AISD student. Dear the AISD district, I have some stress that I need to get off my chest. I feel as if y'all putting my principal in accountability for grades that occurred during him not being present was unfair. I feel this because making teachers practically bribing them to work without Mr. Coyle is unfair. The district is basing our grades on 2019 grades. The people of the district are also predicting the students will fail. I feel as if y'all making the people of this school pay the price is wrong. This can be resolved if the district gives an apology and doesn't fire the teachers.
I would like to talk about the district. I'm an AISD student. I would like to say that it's not fair for teachers getting bribed to let the principal go and the vice principals and everything, because y'all didn't have enough money to fund for fixing the rails or the walls or whatever. And then now that y'all have money for closing down the district and the school, it's unfair. could y'all have money to like buy the teacher with like $10,000 to $15,000 just to let the principal go, and that ain't fair, because like the grades from 2019 were a different teachers and everything, and now we have new teachers helping us learn from different ways, and we show growth in math and everything, and we're showing growth, and the director doesn't want to understand that, and he just like saying bad stuff about us. If he wants to say bad stuff about us, he can like come to Web and see that teachers help us a lot. They teach us how to learn and everything, and that's all I want to say.
Hi, my name is Dominique James. I'm a counselor at Webb Middle School. I was just giving a comment to stand behind my current principal, Mr. C. I was just coming through just to stand behind his outstanding work after 10 years of being in AISD, being at 3 different schools and in a few different positions. This is the only principal that I've seen run a STAR camp the way that he does on our campus. This is the only principal that I've seen that actually take classes because substitutes are not available. So I just want to shout him out with the outstanding work that he's doing at Webb Middle School and giving them a chance to show what this administration team can do, because this is the first year we're all here together. Thank you.
And I want Webb to be able to keep all the teachers that work here hard at Webb Middle School. I am in 8th grade and been here for the full 3 years. We don't need new teachers. We need our school to at least be remodeled. The school has been the same since family members came here back in the day.
My name is and I want Web to be able to keep all their teachers that work hard. My teachers are nice and they're fun. They are patient with me whenever I'm struggling to do my work.
Good afternoon, my name and I've been at Webb for 3 years, which makes me an 8th grader. And I want Webb to stay the same because I experienced a lot of good memories in this school with the staff, coaches, teachers, and all the admin. I'm just really disappointed because I won't ever get to see the joy and nostalgia at Webb because of how they'll take the original Webb away.
Good afternoon. My name is, and I am an 8th grader that has been here since 8th grade. I feel really disappointed that all of the staff are going to get separated, and in my opinion, it's going to be awkward for all of the new students to see random strangers. I want Webb Middle School to keep all of their staff because they make Webb Middle School feel like a safe place to be in and secure environment. In conclusion, Webb Middle School has the best teachers, admins, coaches, and principals.
My name is and I want Webb to keep its principals and teachers. I am an 8th grader, and this is my first year here, and that there's no point of changing the teachers and principals. Well, hang on. Okay.
Hi, my name is a student at Webb Middle School. Dear Austin, ISD Board, and Trustees, I know for most of you think it might be useless here, but for us it's a blessing to see y'all coming here to help us. As a representative of our student body and a Webb Student Council member, I just wanted to say this is important for our school and most of our dear teachers who has been helping us here all the way and will gladly continue to do it. I know for most of the 8th graders who have been coming here since they've been 6th graders, it's a school full of memories, and the teachers that have been here more than 5 years just wanted to say I love our school and the teachers of most of the Webb students just wanted to be heard just by our communities and Austin ISD. Thank you for listening to my voice note.
Hi, this is a student. This is a 6th grader from Dobie Middle School.
I'm here to stand up for the teachers and admins, especially my Spanish teacher who helped me a lot in Spanish, like hola, donde estás, comida. And I appreciate all the admins and teachers who stand up for Dobie and hopefully you make the right decision.
Hi, I am a proud student at Dobie Middle School. I'm in the 6th grade. One thing I like about Dobie is the teachers. The teachers are so nice and they help me so much. Another thing I like about Dobie is the ACE program. It has so much fun activities. Because of these fun activities, I decided to go protest outside of Dobie where I could keep these fun and helpful teachers. And shout out to Ms. and
Hello, I'm a 6th grade Dobie at Dobie Middle School. I am very upset with this turnaround plan due to not having enough time to turn it into a D-rated school. We don't have enough time because we frequently get new students from other countries, which means not doing so well on tests due to lack of English to their knowledge. This turnaround plan will also be firing all of our amazing admin that we very much love. I've only been attending Dobie for almost a year, and I can see how much these admin can care about them, especially their safety. If this turnaround does happen, after these 4 months, they will get rid of our awesome fine arts classes. How will these students find things they have a passion for? These teachers will have to reapply and be qualified and will lose their jobs. In conclusion, this is a really bad plan.
Hi, I'm a 6th grader at Dobie Middle School, and I have some questions. What does it really look like? What it really look like during the next 4 months we have left? Why can't we keep our admin and have them decide whether or not teachers are good enough for students? Dobie has great electives, such as band. We have our 2 band directors. They have given me a big passion for music and have worked really hard for us, and so does our admin and teachers. We will miss our admin and teachers deeply. No one could ever compare to them and what they've done for us. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I am a 6th grader student, and my name is Eli, and I wanted to know why you want to fire teachers and have them reapply when they could work while you guys do whatever you guys are doing with the school. Bye. I hang up now.
My name is Elizabeth, and I want these teachers to be able to stay because they work hard and be patient.
Okay, this concludes our public comment. And before I ask trustees for questions, there's been a request to the administration if you would be able to please translate Ms. McKenna's comment for us. That would be helpful to hear, and we would welcome an email if you prefer. But just to be sure we understand what's been said, we would welcome a translation later after the meeting. So thank you for that. And trustees, do we have any questions for the administration? Okay, I just have one quick one. One of our commenters, Ms. Bradley, mentioned the graduation parking fee, which I think a lot of families are just learning about now, and I would love to just have some clarification about that, please.
Sure. So this year we are introducing a parking fee for the graduations. As Ms. Bradley mentioned, it is $10 if to be paid earlier. If paid at the event, it's $15. We are offering free shuttles from all of our campuses, as well as graduates can park for free, and any staff that are part of the ceremony. One of the things that's just been a challenge for us is the increasing cost in security. It takes a tremendous amount of officer staff, parking staff to operate and support these graduations, and we've been able to make things work for quite some time, but we're at a point now where we've been reducing. We have made adjustments in the graduation itself. We've moved towards a modified kind of distribution of programs. We've looked at just different ways to just reduce the overall cost. And this is one opportunity that we identified that makes it consistent with other school districts around us. We were the only school district that didn't have a fee. And historically in Austin ISD, it has been some time since we've been out of our central locations. The last time I think we were at the Irwin Center was probably 6 years ago or so. So that was the thought process behind it. We tried to balance it and give different options, but yes, that is something that we're moving towards.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Trustees, any additional questions? Trustee Hunter.
Thank you. We have a bunch of students that have called in today, and we thank them. I'll always love the students who advocate for themselves. Some of them are very concerned about all of their teachers being fired and their school being turned into a charter. Can you help us understand what exactly is happening there? I know we're going to get more information on that tonight. Just like a
Yes, Trustee Hunter. The plan that we proposed or introduced to the trustees on Friday includes 3 restarts, one at Burnett, one at Webb, and one at Dobie. A restart includes having the campus remain at that location, meaning there are no moves. There are no moves to any other campuses, so our students would remain at those campuses. The restart does require an evaluation of staff, primarily in core instructional areas. And upon evaluation, those staff, if they meet a certain criteria, will be able to stay at that campus. I do want to make it very, very clear that that is focused on core instruction. So classified staff, including front office staff, teacher assistants, custodial staff, food service, all of those individuals, they will remain at the campus. There will not be an evaluation of any kind. As far as firing, I did hear that from a couple callers and students. We are not firing staff. Any transition that occurs will be overseen by Brandy Hosick, our Chief of Talent Strategy, and the hope is that those staff that are not eligible to remain at that campus can find another home at another campus in Austin ISD. Given our attrition rates just year over year, given our size, we feel very confident that every staff will be able to remain in Austin ISD. As far as the administration, it is an expectation from the agency that there is a leader that demonstrates or has demonstrated the ability to turn around a campus, taking it from a failing campus to one that breaks the accountability chain, which is a C or better. And it is challenging because our leaders, as great as they are, just don't have that experience the way it's defined by the agency. So yes, that hopefully that provides clarity. We will have a conversation later on today, this evening, but was that helpful, Trustee Hunter?
thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions? All right. Thank you, trustees. Thank you to all of our callers and people who came in person to comment.
I just wanted to make one point because I did hear some students talk about fine arts and athletics. It is really important that we communicate as clearly as we can is that we support those programs. Those programs will reside. Those are positions that are not part of this evaluation process, again, because they're not core instruction. We've seen them blossom over the last couple of years, and this plan will fully support that continuing, just to be very, very clear.
Thank you for that. All right, as a reminder, please feel free to share any general comments or questions with the board by email at trustees@austinisd.org. And before we start our scorecard discussions and information items, we will very briefly recess the open meeting to receive a short legal update. We're recessing at 7:06 p.m. and moving to executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.074, 551.072, 551.073, 551.087, 551.076, 551.0821, and 551.071. We will return to the open session to continue the meeting shortly. Thank you. Hi, we will now reconvene our open meeting at 7:49 p.m. Thank you for your patience. Mr. Segura, would you please introduce our next item, our scorecard item? Oh, no, President's report. That is not your item, it's my item. Okay, as part of the agreed order with the Texas Education Agency, the agreement requires that the board shall, at the first board-authorized meeting each month, publicly report by reading into the record the percentage of time invested in student outcomes during the prior 3-month time period and the total time spent in closed session during the prior month. The February, March, and April 3-month average board meeting time spent on Lone Star Governance defined student outcomes and special education monitoring was 61.47%. So we've exceeded our target of 50%. For the last month, April 2025, we were at 60.17%, and the board spent 529 minutes in executive session in April. Our next item is part of our commitment to discuss student achievement. And we have a presentation on scorecard goal 5, biliteracy, GPM 5.1 and 5.2. As part of our commitment to focus on student outcomes, this time does count toward our TEA required minutes. We've estimated 60 minutes for our conversation, although we do not have a time limit. Before we hear our presentation, we need to confirm that our monitoring report is complete. Does anyone have evidence that the elements of an effective monitoring report are not present? Okay, thank you. Since everyone agrees the required elements are present, we will turn the floor to Superintendent Segura for the presentation.
Thank you, President Boswell. The team and I will present on Goal 5, Biliteracy Goal Progress Measure 5.1 and 5.2. I have joining me this evening Dr. Marianne Maxwell, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Academics, Dr. Susan Diaz, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Academics, Yvette Cardenas, Director of Elementary Multilingual Education, and Janeth Medrano, Interim Director of Secondary Multilingual Education. And so, as you can see on the screen, I wanted to clearly articulate Goal 5, which is the percent of graduates who earn a state or district recognition of bilingualism and biliteracy, which is Austin ISD Dual Language Seal of Biliteracy, Texas Performance Acknowledgement in Bilingualism and Biliteracy, or the Global Seal of Biliteracy, will increase from 10.3% in June of 2024 to 11.8% by June of 2029. The Goal Progress Measure 5.1 states that the percent of 5th grade students enrolled in dual language who earn a proficient level equivalent to level 1 high school credit in the TEKS on the Avant Stamps 4 as dual language proficiency assessment for partnered language will increase from 82.6% in June 2024 to 88% by June of 2029. Goal Progress Measure 5.2 is the percent of 9th through 12th graders on track in program coursework to earn an Austin AISD Seal of Biliteracy will increase from the baseline in June of 2025 to Y by June of 2029. And so for our families and staff following along, this is part of the scorecard that was adopted on June 20th of 2024, and some of the goal progress measures within that scorecard had baseline years since it was a new scorecard and we had not had enough data to build out that kind of starting point for the trend line. Looking below, you'll see that the goal progress measure most aligns with the initiatives labeled the middle school years and post-secondary success. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to the team, Dr. Marianne Maxwell, to kick us off.
Thank you, Superintendent Segura. Good evening, President Boswell and Board of Trustees. We're excited to talk about these progress measures tonight and reaching our goal of bilingualism and biliteracy by way of the Global Seal of Biliteracy. And so, as Superintendent Segura mentioned, we have two different progress measures that we'll be looking for tonight. First one, starting in 5th grade, our earliest measure of this progress towards this goal. And then the second measure, looking at what's happening in 9th through 12th grade in the later years of the progress towards this goal. So really what we're talking about here and what we're looking for is clear proficiency in 2 languages as a hallmark of a solid dual language program. And so really these can be seen as pathways for our students to graduate from us fully bilingual and clearly have attributes of bilingualism and biliteracy. We can think of that as a widened pathway for our students, being able to graduate with that as something that really supports them in the workforce, in college, and in their life readiness. So we're really seeing bilingualism here for sure as an asset and want to track that and celebrate that. Our dual language programs do and the work that our students do to reach these accomplishments. So as I mentioned, 5.1 is our earliest indicator towards earning these accomplishments, and 5.2 really continues for DL students that are on track in high school to earn that seal. We do have some alignment to our district initiatives, although we're starting with 5th grade and elementary. That is most closely aligned to what they're earning in 5th grade for that high school credit, level 1 credit for the language, for the area that they're testing in by way of the STAMP test. The STAMP test for Spanish and for Mandarin has 4 domains: reading, speaking, listening, writing. And the STAMP test for Vietnamese currently has 2 domains. That was actually a new test this year. It was a brand new test. Our students took it for the first time this year, and they don't have all 4 language domains ready yet. That's coming. Don't know if it's coming next year, but it's coming soon is what we're told. We don't have an exact arrival time. But we can assess some readiness and some proficiency with those 2. Some key data findings that we'll talk about tonight are overall, and for GPM 5.1, we do have some variation from the baseline scores that we collected last year and the scores that we collected this year. We'll get into that quite a bit when we talk about our root cause and when we talk about the data tables and how we actually collected that data and analyzed it, and some differences between last year and this year. And then we do have some progress in some of our student groups, and then we have some decreases in some of our other student groups. Some of our student groups that had progress, African American and 2 or more student groups, also had low numbers, and so we can expect to see some variations. We've talked about this a little bit in some other progress measures. With the low numbers of students, with changes in students from year to year, we can expect to see more variation in their scores from year to year. And then in 5.2, we do have a baseline that was collected this year. Baseline data shows that 50.8% of our high school students enrolled in DL are on track to earn that AISD dual language seal of biliteracy. There's a bit of a difference in the grade levels. We do see a dip in 10th and 11th grade, while we do see higher scores in 9th and 12th grades, and we'll get into the root causes for that a little bit more as we talk about that data. And so our first table here, I'm just going to try to remember to scroll as I talk and say all the words. Help me remember if I need to do that. So our first table here, this is our data table for 5.1. So what we're looking at here is last year's baseline data that was collected in 23-24. And then this year's new data for 24-25, and then to the right of those you see the yearly targets, which would have been for the 24-25 and the subsequent 4 years after this. So you can see, I mentioned earlier, there's a little bit of a difference between a decrease in what we see in 24-25 and then what we see in 23-24. And so you can see also in several student populations we did not meet that yearly target for this year. Some things that we don't have in the data table here, which really I'm just talking about tonight, which we can kind of explain a little more as well in root causes. How we collected and analyzed our methodology changed this year from what it was last year when we collected this data. Last year we collected the data and this actually wasn't a GPM at that time. We had just started collecting the data. And so we had it readily available and thought we'll use this as our baseline data. What we found this year in collecting the data, analyzing it, and looking at the difference in the methodologies was that we needed to change the methodology to more accurately reflect proficiency of the language. So let me explain a little bit why. Last year, for example, in our Spanish test, let's say there are 4 domains. What we found was the STAMP assessment platform would still give us a composite score, even if not all 4 of those domains were tested. So some of our, and we in the area that was most lacking in some scores was speaking. Sometimes the students were speaking, they weren't wearing headphones correctly, possibly they were mumbling, sometimes you couldn't quite hear it. And so either it was a very low score or there was no score at all. And so for other reasons, they may not have been able to participate in all 4 areas of the language assessment. But what STAMP did was it gave them a composite score anyway that was enough to say they would have earned proficiency, a level 1 proficiency in the language. This year, in looking at it, as the team began to look, there was a kind of change in the process and the personnel who was doing the analysis. We looked at that same data, but made the decision that it would be better, a more accurate and more rigorous reflection of proficiency in the language if we had all 4 domains. If 4 domains are available for the test, of course, two for Vietnamese. And so we thought that would be a better measure of language proficiency. What that does is, of course, change methodology from what we had thought would be our baseline year to what we have this year. And so what we would like to consider, and I can say I don't have that data tonight as part of this. We uploaded this a couple of weeks ago, our per board timelines when we upload documents. As you know, we had access that some time ago. But what we did was we started to run the numbers. We haven't had enough time to truly verify them, rerun them, make sure that we've got everything correct. We do actually see, for example, for all students, you see last year it was 82.6% that would have been proficient. If we reran last year's data with this year's methodology, it would have been 80.8%. So actually would have been a little lower that last year, if that makes sense, if we had used the same methodology, which is more rigorous. So there's a difference in the years, but that explains some of the difference in changing the methodology. What we did find, though, is that we still have the same increases in student populations and the same decreases in student populations. And it is still lower this year than it was last year overall. And so we think a lot of our data key takeaways do actually apply. They just are going to apply in a little bit different percentages, and some of the root causes still apply too. So keep that part of the presentation. It might be part of the questions later as we go through that a little bit. But we are looking at possibly moving this year's as a baseline since the methodology was changed so that we can use the same methodology from here on out, which would probably affect yearly targets as well. And then I'll hand it over to Dr. Diaz for.
Can you scroll to the next one? Oh, yes. Thank you. So we are in a baseline year collecting data, and just to remind everyone, the GPM 5.2 is going to measure the percentage of high school students in dual language programs who are on track to earn the AISD dual language seal of biliteracy. This year is going to serve as our baseline, and the data shows that 50.8% of students in grades 9 through 12 are currently on track. And you can see our different student populations. When we look at them, our Hispanic, Latinx, economically disadvantaged, and emergent bilingual students are all pretty much performing around the same level. But where you're going to see the largest gap is going to be with our students receiving special education services. But again, this is the first year of data collection, and we'll use this to set the yearly targets from here until 28-29.
Okay. So looking at 5.1, when we look at some of the key takeaways, as Dr. Maxwell had mentioned, there was an overall decrease in the all student category from this year to last year's baseline. And again, there was most progress in our group of Black African American students, and there was also progress in our group of 2 or more student group. However, we did see decreases in other student groups, such as our Asian group, economically disadvantaged group, emergent bilingual group, Hispanic Latino group, and special education. So we definitely have opportunities for growth, but we are also excited to have a platform to highlight the progress of developing two languages in the dual language program.
All right, key takeaways for 5.2. So first, it's encouraging to have baseline data. This really confirms that we have a solid foundation and a meaningful opportunity for growth. So if you look at the data, you will see higher numbers for 9th and 12th grade. This really confirms that strong systems in place really support our students in continuing on the track for the seal of biliteracy. You see some drop-off in 10th and 11th grade, which reflects the increasing number of choices that students have once they're in high school. And then finally, our data shows that we are serving the students who benefit most from multilingual programming. And so now our challenge is to ensure that we are encouraging systems that allow them to complete the track and the requirements towards the seal of biliteracy.
Okay, so getting into some of the root causes that I mentioned a little bit earlier, of course, there is a change in the methodology, but we think most of these root causes in general still apply. We also did have some changes in assessment from 23-24 to 24-25. We changed the testing window based on the assessment calendar steering committee feedback. We're always trying to look for better ways and options to not overload students at any one time in the year. And we got that feedback pretty strongly through the assessment calendar committee. And so decided to make that change in the assessment window, which always changes a little bit for where students are in their readiness and what else is happening, going on during that assessment. The more regular you can set that schedule, the better it is for students and their performance. In addition, students from a third elementary campus with Mandarin rolled up to 5th grade. And so that was our it's a new student group that we didn't have previously from the 23-24 year. Again, this was the first time that any of our students in the Vietnamese dual language program tested. It was just those 2 language domains for STAMP with the writing and speaking. So that was a new test that didn't exist in the 23-24 data. And then during that analysis, of course, we looked at the process that we used. Our team fine-tuned that and changed it to better reflect what we felt was proficiency in the language, which as we're looking and rerunning data now, we find that that did make a difference in quite a few of our students and them not actually reaching the proficiency that we had previously thought. Also, other than some assessment changes, we definitely notice and recognize there's a need always for continued adherence and learning and knowledge around the district's dual language allocation plan. Part of that plan, that plan is focused on when to teach in which language. And so it really delineates for teachers, if I'm teaching this particular content at this particular time, what language is the target language. And so that is what we use really to build its content-based language instruction. That is the thing that we use in English and in the partner language to really build rich vocabulary and build language. And so the adherence to that plan has definitely been a focus, which we did talk a lot about, and CPM 3.2, which we'll also be addressing tonight. And then, of course, we continue to find staffing shortages in bilingual education. Our district has had to increase the number of bilingual exception waivers because it's just difficult to find enough bilingual certified teachers to fill those positions. And so we continue to put even sometimes as highly qualified teachers in those positions that are just not bilingual certified. And then 5.2, root causes.
Absolutely, and you're going to, we're going to have some of the same root causes for multiple reasons. But one of the things that we're most excited about, but is a root cause, was the fact that we didn't have a tool to track how many students were on track to graduate with the seal of biliteracy. So now that we have that it'll fill a void that we've had in the past, not just we didn't have access to the data. And we think that now that we have access to this data, that it will really inform our campuses, our counselors, our teachers, and our families, so they have a better understanding of the importance of receiving the seal of biliteracy. And we also know that many of our students are high mobility, and they would transfer from campus to campus sometimes, and when that happens, they may transfer to a campus that does not offer dual language, and if they do transfer to a campus for a year or so that does not offer the dual language programming, then that will throw them off track to graduate with the seal of biliteracy as well. And again, much like my elementary colleagues, staffing is always difficult, especially in secondary. Not saying that it's not hard in elementary, but really when you're getting into content, you know, needing a science teacher or a biology teacher who is fluent in Spanish and can really teach the content, it is very difficult. These people are like unicorns to find. So staffing always in a dual language model, especially in middle, but very much especially in high school, can be hard to staff. And then lastly, while we do allow all students to participate in dual language offerings, so therefore we do have students that are taking the classes but do not have the intention of graduating with the seal of biliteracy, because we welcome anyone into the dual language programming for, you know, for however amount of time or however many courses they choose to take. But so that does kind of skew our numbers as well when we have students that are not necessarily seeking that seal of biliteracy, but we're going to work to encourage more students to do that.
So now talking about outliers for 5.1. So we do want to highlight that we had 22 total campuses for elementary that met or exceeded the all target. And so 10 of those campuses are in the SRI band number 1, 5 of them are in the SRI band number 2, 6 of them in SRI band number 3, and 1 of them in the SRI band number 4. So we did wonder, right? So what are some factors that contributed to this? And campuses responded, and they reported that some of the factors for their success was explicit vocabulary instruction, language-rich environments, strong instructional practices, structured conversations. That is something that we have worked a lot with on campuses with the elementary academics and elementary schools to provide training. Goal setting for STAMP and TELPAS, fidelity to dual language programming, language of instruction, use of high quality instructional materials, and then having just experienced veteran teachers that were very supportive of dual language programming. And again, these factors also are very aligned to the 3 pillars of dual language programming.
And for 5.2, I want to highlight 2 campuses. So Aikens Early College High School, they were the first campus to implement the dual language program at high school and the ALCA course, the senior course. And so they lead the district with 73.4% on track. Even though they have that extra year, they have consistent staffing, consistent leadership, teachers, counselors, really strong communication systems amongst them, and have fully implemented all the dual language courses, and have, you know, cross collaboration with advising our students across the different programs. And so they have built these really strong systems to keep our students in the program all the way through senior year. Crockett Early College High School, they joined the next year in 2022, I think, and they are at 66.1% on track. They also have implemented all the courses. They also have a very strong, tight-knit community, dual language community amongst the leaders and the teachers. But aside from that, they were the first ones to develop a tracking tool to track students from 9th grade through 12th grade to ensure that they're going to meet the requirements for the seal of biliteracy. And so we actually took their template, their model, and gave it to the other campuses to follow that same lead and track our students to meet the full requirements for the seal of biliteracy.
So with the progress of initiatives, well, it speaks to the work that's already underway for the 24-25 school year. It really highlights how biliteracy initiatives align with AISD's middle school forward and post-secondary priorities. These initiatives aim to ensure that biliteracy pathways are embedded into academic planning and teacher support. And we're also focused on increasing both the quality and consistency of instruction and monitoring. So with 5.1, and of course, it's the long-term goal of increasing access to Austin ISD's seal of biliteracy and multilingual recognitions. So for 5.1, the multilingual education team has partnered with the elementary STEM and humanities to provide that language and content allocation plan, to build that robust curriculum, dual language curriculum, and to build language proficiency in both English and Spanish. Multilingual education and STEM and humanities have also made significant purchases of Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 resources to support core and interventions. This year, campus administrators and multilingual education team members conducted walkthroughs at DL campuses using the dual language data collection tool, and we'll talk more about that on the constraint. And also, multilingual education has provided lots and lots of professional learning to support teachers, and we're really focused right now, as Dr. Maxwell was sharing and Dr. Diaz, about teacher shortages, really working hard to provide supports and professional learning so that teachers get their bilingual certification and so that we can decrease our number of bilingual exceptions. We're just launching, we're excited. We're just launching a very intensive 4-day biliteracy certification academy. And so far we're getting great feedback from the participants. And so we'll continue to monitor the effectiveness and hopefully get all those teachers certified.
And so for 5.2, this has been some really exciting work this year because we laid a strong foundation for our students to continue the pathway towards the seal of biliteracy. So something we did is we conducted an audit, a course audit for all our students to really establish who is on track and who is not and how to get them on track. And this also served as a way to help all the stakeholders get on the same page and get a bigger perspective of the whole process and all the different moving pieces. We're also in the works of building a frontline report in order for our counselors, our registrars, teachers to be able to pull a report, real-time report, and see where exactly our students are in their pathway towards the seal of biliteracy. We've also begun developing a K-12 curriculum that embeds in their reflections, artifact collections, anything that the students can use and collect and save for their portfolio their senior year. This is great because our students have found, the first few cohorts has found themselves kind of rushed to try to find different artifacts. And now that we know, the kids know what to look forward to, they're able to do that at an earlier age or earlier grade. And then finally, we've partnered with Counseling, Advanced Academics, and CCMR to embed what are those sealed requirements and how can we work together so that students don't have to choose a program but can participate in multiple programs.
All right, so the plan forward, after the work that's been done so far, we know there are things that we can always improve and strengthen and really have some alignment with school leadership and everything that our teams are doing together. So Ms. Cardenas mentioned this a little bit about our teams working together. It's really not something that can just be done or owned by the Met Department. This is all of us. These are all of our kids. So although we're just focusing on actual language proficiency in the partner language, that happens because we have strong connections across our departments with our content areas, and they're learning quality content to learn language and build language through math, through language arts, through social studies, through science, for that really being able to get to a proficiency level. Assessments for proficiency don't just have to do with being comfortable with speaking or being conversational. They're quite a bit more. It involves a lot more content than that. So part of that partnership, of course, has been all of our teams working together on that, and part of that partnership is with school leadership. And so in the plan forward, as we continue our focus on literacy and add new components, right? We can't drop literacy, but we're adding new components and some more considerations with our time and our professional learning. We've talked a little bit about math, and what we have the opportunity to talk about tonight is dual language, the dual language structure content-based language instruction that we've cross-trained our teams in, and that we'll be partnering with school leadership on as we have required principal sessions all through next year. So ongoing sessions with principals so that they can give strong feedback to their dual language teachers, which is important at any time, and particularly important, I think, for the dual language program, because not every administrator was a dual language teacher. And so you're learning new components of a program at the same time, and learning to value them, but also give good feedback on them. And so, which we'll probably talk a little bit more later. They're very interconnected, this GPM 5.1 and the CPM 3.2 for us. And so strengthening that communication with campuses and administration about what that assessment is, how we can build up towards that assessment for proficiency and what that looks like in the classroom, and then continuing to work side by side with them on our walkthroughs and as we provide that professional learning. And then, of course, the KPIs that we have involved, I'll just kind of fast forward to that with 5.1. KPIs for that will be us tracking the number of campuses that are participating in our professional development sessions, that actually we're working specifically towards improving that speaking section of the assessment so that they understand it, they've got a little practice with it, are using headphones correctly, just doing actual campus trainings with that or working with campus people on that. And then just tracking percentage of, how many professional development sessions we have in attendance. That's for administrators, that's for teachers, and making sure that our professional development that we're offering is in line with the things that we're tracking that we know really make a difference for language proficiency.
Awesome. And for GPM 5.2, our plan forward and our KPIs are basically looking ahead. Our work is focused on setting up systems and ensuring that they're in place so we can support all of our students, our campuses, our counselors. So a lot of this is about collaboration with the campuses. It's about the support that Janet and her team provides to the campuses and keeping good communication open. I'm very lucky to have her by my side tonight. She's been a lovely addition to our team because of how close she is with the campuses. So I think that that's very important in this plan moving forward. Again, as Janet mentioned, we're also launching a report in Frontline that will help the campuses track where their students are in as they progress through the seal of biliteracy. And we're also monitoring the retention rates because, again, as we mentioned earlier, we see that there's a few years when they're in high school that there are some dips. And so we have some wonderings about why that's occurring. So really closely monitoring why the kids in 10th and 11th grade have a dip for a while, and then why they rise up in 12th grade. And finally, we'll be providing training to teachers across high school to support students as they collect their artifacts and create their portfolios and reflect on them. And all of this work is aligned with the 3 pillars of dual language. So these steps we think will help us strengthen our pipeline, increase completion, and ensure that more of our students graduate with this really valuable recognition. And we are very grateful that so many of you all got to participate in the awards assembly because, that's when you really see the fruits of their labor all the way from, elementary to high school. So we look forward to any questions you may have about our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for this. Really appreciate the look all the way through. So trustees, do we have any questions about this report? Trustee Hunter.
Good evening. Thank you for the update, the monitoring report. Referring to slide 10, which outlines professional learning tied to biliteracy, and you may not have this number now, and that's fine. It can be provided later, Mr. Superintendent. What percentage of bilingual certified teachers have completed the foundational training aligned to the bilingual stipend? And how is the district measuring the impact of the training on the biliteracy outcomes?
So thank you for asking that question. We We did track last year's. We are putting together the data for this year. So we reported on some training for the November report that came out for last year. So we'll be collecting it also for this year to be able to report out. That is the foundational course for elementary. We're making that the elements of dual language. There are 7 components to the elements. That is the foundational training piece. One of those elements is that language of instruction as well. So we're going to talk about language of instruction a little bit later with the CPM. So if you need data now, I can provide that to you. But please know that it came out in November when we did for last year, and then we have that updated training also for this year. That's the foundational course. We also had administrators go through that training.
Oh. Okay, and then just an additional question. I was on that same slide, you talked about 164 and 190. This is I guess I need some clarification. Are we saying that there are highly qualified teachers, meaning, I don't know, they're ESL certified or something, but they're not like what is it? I never get all the initials. BTLPT?
Yes.
Like, are we saying that's the deal?
Yes, so when we're talking about the bilingual certification, there are 2 exams. So those are those 2 exams.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we're saying to be a bilingual teacher in Austin, you need both or just one?
You need both.
You need both. But right now, we have people who are highly qualified but do not have both.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Jacob's going to say something.
Yeah. Trustees, I apologize. I do want to add some clarity to our GPMs while we're looking at these and how they're worded compared to what are the numbers that we're looking at. And so we understand that the language we're utilizing may not be clear on what the denominator is for each 5.1 and 5.2 for both of these items. We want to take the opportunity to discuss that with our multilingual team and our academics team to make sure that we are telling the true story of how these students are achieving and that it's aligned with what we originally discussed with the board. And so we're looking at how these items do say all students, but our denominator right now is looking at dual language students. And I think for 5.1, that makes a lot of sense because those are the students who are taking that test. But the language is written as all students. For 5.2, again, written as all students, but we were looking at the dual language students. So we just want to ensure that we are utilizing the correct language. So we will take that opportunity to discuss that and make sure that we share something with our community and our board on what we discover. It may be as simple as just ensuring that our goal language is telling the true story, or it may be for 5.2 needing to potentially adjust the denominator. And if that is the case, we'll make sure that we get updated numbers to our trustees.
Thank you. I appreciate that and that clarity. And I know we're working with a new scorecard and some new measures and new baselines and new a lot of things. So thank you for being really clear about that. Trustee Singh.
Thank you. I thought this was a really thorough presentation. Lots of good data here. Appreciate the effort. I did have a question that sort of relates to what Trustee Hunter was talking about with the certified teachers. I note in the presentation there's some mention of exceptions that we are seeking to sort of waive the bilingual certification requirement. So just with that in mind, I'm wondering, what else do we need to know about that? I'm just reading this off of like the TA. Like, what else do we need to know about that as it relates to the outlier campuses or the campuses that maybe weren't outliers? Like the levels of certified teachers, does that seem to have an impact or correlation with campuses that we are seeing meeting or exceeding the targets versus those that aren't?
So that's also a great question. Even though I don't have those numbers here with me, I do have them on my laptop. I will say that based on what I know, there are campuses in that SRI band 1 that met or exceeded the target that do have a higher number of exceptions also. So just an observation, I think that this is really kind of the first year where we're looking at it in terms of the campuses themselves, to determine where there is some kind of connection, right, between the certification. I think we're still trying to really see the cause and effect.
Thanks so much.
Trustees, Trustee Kaufman.
Thank you for the presentation and for the work to put into practice the goals that address the vision and values of our district in terms of helping students achieve bilingualism. So thank you for this. I just have one question that is focused on how as a future focused question, and that is around a budget. And so I'm curious in terms of how the board can support with investments in the future. Particularly, my question is around Title III funding, given that the Title III funding is intended to support the English language acquisition for emergent bilingual students, and then the current president proposed budget that is entirely zeroed out. So I'm curious, how much does our district currently rely on the Title III funding, and should that funding disappear in coming years, what would the board need to do to support the implementation in the future?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll wrap up.
Okay, well, so the way that we are using Title III right now is really heavily with team members that are directly supporting campuses, right? So it's 78 campuses for elementary, 57 of those campuses have dual language programming. And so that is where they support a lot. They have approximately 13 campuses per specialist at elementary. So if we were to lose that funding, we would lose a lot of that direct campus support, the coaching piece of it, being there for PLCs, the professional learning, all of the pieces, you know, that the multilingual education does a whole lot of professional learning as well, and supporting of teachers. So that is where we would have a huge loss.
And off the top of your heads, do you have the estimated amount of what the current Title III funding is that we spend?
I don't want to give you an incorrect figure. It's a substantial amount.
It's a substantial amount. We can get that to you. And I mean, just in summary, I think the program was an $890 million program at the federal level that's zeroed out. And so I could only imagine that we'll have significant impact on language instruction. And I know that Ms. Cardenas was in a TEA presentation today about future BEA funding and immigration funding, and trying to, look forward at the differences between the two. So we're watching it closely, but I think we could expect to see an impact if that is passed, if that is accepted.
Okay. And just not to put the wrong number out there, but would I be correct in assuming it's somewhere around $1.5 to $2 million?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Closer to 2, Trustee Kaufman.
Thank you.
Trustee Quintana, yes.
Thank you. I know you mentioned the steep drop-off in 10th and 11th grades. I was wondering if we could just extrapolate on that a little more and see how we can track that progress and how that will be reported back to the board.
Thank you. So yes, we do see a dip, and it really aligns with how our students have more choices, and they really kind of focus in on where they want to go at 10th grade. So that is a big conversation we had during this audit. When we did the audit, we brought in all the campuses, and it was really helpful for them to see the importance of the students being in the 2 courses, being coded appropriately so that they're meeting this goal. And so as we had these conversations, they really saw the value in why we should track the students. And actually, for the several weeks after that, they were submitting to me like, hey, what about this tracker? What about these edits, and customizing it so it meets the needs of their campus. So they're definitely, I I'm hopeful that I'm going to see a lot of increase on that because they really understand the full picture now. But I also see the ERP frontline report as a tool that we can use to monitor that and see how we can correct any students that may not be on track, right? So that should really help inform us and the board as well in the moment, real-time data of where students are.
Thank you, Trustee Hunter.
I want to tag team on that question. So when we think about the strategies, like you said, you mentioned kids have more choices. So I guess really what I'm looking to find out is like, what are the systemic strategies around equitable advising, schedule flexibility, and academic planning so that they can persist through dual language to the biliteracy? So
absolutely. Yes, well, the last thing we want to do is punish kids for wanting to engage in more programming, right? And so we've had several meetings with our CCMR team. That's the main program, the early college high school, where we see some scheduling conflicts because our pathway requires 2 courses per year, 8 total courses, right? And early college high school has a very structured requirement for their courses as well, especially when we're talking about 11th and 12th grade. And so we've had a lot of conversations on where we can find some overlap so that students don't have to choose. For example, one of them was that the students don't actually have to take Spanish or any foreign language at ACC. They can actually submit their AP exam scores that they took in 8th grade or whatever grade they take it, so that they don't have to take it. And so that creates some flexibility, right? So that was one strategy. Another strategy is that we embedded AVID as a dual language course. AVID is required as a pathway for early college high school, right? And so we made that as an option, right? Like, okay, if we can't get you to take one of those traditional dual language courses, you could take the AVID dual language course, and that really helps meet both of the needs. And then there was one more, and I lost it. I'm sorry. There was one more thing that we did. It'll come back to me.
no need. Those are really
Later,
elegant
10 p.m.
solutions. I like them
AVID strategy
quite a lot.
genius.
That is really awesome. And then AVID is you're getting bigger bang for your buck.
Yeah.
So well done. I really think that is a really great way. I was really worried because, kids are like, well, now I want to do this.
Yes.
But freeing that up with the AP courses, that is, I really like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I just had one more question about the mobility for the students moving campuses. And, given what we know about the trends in our mobility with students, how are we looking at addressing that? Or do we have projections on the overall effects that that's having to our dual language program?
So we don't have like the data to help us kind of track where those kids have gone and come back. But with this new frontline report, we'll be able to pull that because it'll follow the students, right? So if they go to, let's say, McCallum, right, and they don't have those courses, but they did attend Navarro maybe in their like 9th grade, that'll follow them, and we'll be able to say like, oh wait, actually they're just missing 2 courses. Let's make sure they're in those 2 courses, or maybe they're missing 3. Let's stack on a 3rd one. So I have high hopes for this frontline report because it makes it, it will give us historical data on the student. However, I will say that there comes a point where, because it's 8 courses and it's 2 per school year, if kids are coming back at 11th or 12th grade, it's kind of hard for them to stack on that many dual language courses, especially when we're talking about dual language courses that are like core content, something they already took, and then asking them to take it again to get the seal of biliteracy. But that is why we have multiple recognitions, right? We have the global seal, and that is one that I want to look into. Now, how do we track students who have to get off the AISD seal of biliteracy and then jump into the global seal track, right? So that they're not missing out on the opportunity, and their work and their bilingualism is acknowledged one way or another.
I just want to clarify, when you say the frontline report, are you referring to frontline, the student information system? Yes. And is that what you're using for master scheduling? Or why is it a frontline report? What does that mean?
Yeah, so we're working with Frontline to create the report, so it's not there yet, but it's to be able to pull the transcripts, right? So when we are talking about students being on track, we're talking about, did they take the 2 courses, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade, right? So we're looking at transcript data and current schedule data.
Thank you, Trustee Quintana.
I'm looking at our live feed here, and there's a really good question here that I don't know the answer to, so I'd love to ask you. What the relationship between our special ed kids and them taking dual language classes, and what their resources are, and is that something that we also see affected in 10th and 11th grade if they have to choose between, and do they have to choose between?
So I don't know the question, that second part of your question about if their SPED programming is impacting their choices. Is that kind of what you're asking? I'm not clear on that piece. I do know that a lot of the conversations that we have with counselors is that students want to engage with the DL classes. They want to take them. They want to continue their language development, but they don't necessarily want to get the seal of biliteracy. They don't want to go all the way through. They don't want to take the ALCA class. I still have to do more, research and data to really understand what is really the reason there. Is it because they don't so the ALCA class is a course where they're doing an oral presentation, and that a lot of kids don't like to do that, and so I know that that's one factor, but that's just based off conversations. So this is definitely, this data, this scorecard work has really brought that to light, and I really want to dig into that some more.
And my guess would be that it's not impacting them, but we can definitely look into that and partner with Dr. Terry Lee and delve into that a little bit deeper and see if we can find a more clear answer about that for you.
Probably do that as just a board update.
Yep.
Great. Trustees, additional questions? Trustee Whitley-Chu.
Yes. When I'm looking at this data and compared to our 2023 STAR data that came out, I noticed that some of our outliers with being on track with language of instruction criteria were also outliers in their bands for higher accountability labels. And I was wondering if y'all see a reason for those connections, if y'all are also seeing data of these, if y'all see these data related to other student achievement data.
Yeah, so there's a pretty good correlation between language proficiency data and STAR data. So partner language, TELPAS, and STAR, when you see one of those things begin to rise and get more proficient, it also is correlated to better STAR scores.
Okay, so yeah, I thought that was interesting. And do you see any of this, do you see any other data correlations that maybe aren't apparent from this report? Any positive or negative correlations in terms of student achievement or in resources that some campuses have or don't have, or is that something to further explore?
Yeah, I don't think we've analyzed the data with other possible correlations. I think that we could certainly do that. I know sometimes when we talk about outliers and that we also provide some information on, campuses and some demographics and what the other things are that are existent at those campuses to try to make some correlations. We haven't done that with this particular data, but it would be interesting to see. We know there's definitely a correlation with STAR performance, and that will relate to, things like MAP as well. But we could look for some other possible correlations and provide that in an update.
Thank you. And then I just sent in a tracker question about, because y'all mentioned some of these campuses and the different certifications, and also number of years of experience that y'all saw as a correlation. So I, asked for that data, and I'm sure as y'all are analyzing it, please let us know how the board can help support allocating resources. I know it's hard with limited resources, but how can we support providing those resources where the needs are highest?
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, trustees. Additional questions? Trustee
I had one
Singh?
more. The more I look at this, the more cool data I see. So and that is just one thing I didn't catch earlier. On the very last page, 21, I thought it was interesting that Chinese seem to have the highest percentage of students meeting level 1. So I guess I just want to double check the interpretation of this table is, students who were in Chinese dual language tended to do better on the STAMP test than students who were in the Spanish or Vietnamese program. Is that correct? Okay. And there was a pretty big difference. With Vietnamese was 34.2% versus Spanish 77 and Chinese 86.4. And so I was curious to know kind of like what we might attribute this difference to.
So part of that with the Vietnamese, it was their first year to take it. And there's only 2 domains for the Vietnamese test right now, and the other tests have 4 domains. So that's part of it. I do know that in talking with leadership at that campus, Summit Elementary, they are going to be working this summer on assessments and kind of having some monitoring pieces. So they're going to work on that part of it also to align and be better prepared for the STAMP when it's for fall of 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Gonzalez, any questions? Okay.
All my questions have been answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I have a couple. I'd love to go to slide 5, please. The table for GPM 5.1. Or page 5 in our monitoring report. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. You did a really, it was very helpful to hear the explanation of the changes in timing from 23 to 24 to 24, 25, the new Vietnamese test, to see the data that look, it's why are we going backwards? And thank you for really helping to explain that. And I think it makes it hard to kind of say, are we on target or not? I'd really appreciate your thoughts about what we're seeing and whether, I know we have a window when we can alter our scorecard under Lone Star governance, and really want to get your thoughts about, as we're planning kind of for our meetings coming up, about whether we want to reconsider the targets in light of the new baseline that's in the fall, to give us a more accurate picture of how our students are progressing, because that's really the goal of this. And I would really love your thoughts on what we're seeing and what your recommendations would be for the administration to bring to us.
Right, so as we mentioned, as I mentioned, the trends are still the same in the student populations, but the percentages are just a little bit different. And sometimes when you're working with smaller percentages, it makes a difference when you set those targets, right? So when the initial sort of data that we're looking at, that we need a little more time to make sure is correct and run through the process again, could be a difference anywhere between just a little, like less than a percentage point to 3 or 4%, which when you're making decisions for like district-wide decisions for students and programming, you just want to get that right. And so and then the methodology, right? When that changes, and the original targets were set on the original, that last year's baseline, we just want to make sure that the yearly targets from here on out are set on what we know we had as our methodology this year, what we consider the best measure of language proficiency, and then set appropriate targets for the year out. I'm not sure completely what the timeline is for us to change that. I think we could definitely do this within the next few weeks and have some stronger numbers, and then propose some new yearly targets that might not change necessarily too much, but it would give us just a different view and ensure that we are more steady in reaching our goal using that same methodology.
That's exactly right. What I'd like the opportunity to do, because there are other scorecards, items as well that probably require, some refinement, given the methodology. That's why they're baseline years. As you pull data, you realize that the original baseline is not truly the baseline you should have had. The methodology has been updated and reflects really what we wanted the entire time. So what I'd love the opportunity to do is to get with Jacob Reach and provide a proposal back. I would love this to be in place before next year. I think we have everything we need to propose something, but maybe we can bring it back before June. I just want to make sure I touch base with Jacob Reach and see kind of what requirements within LSG we have to adhere to make sure we're not in conflict with anything. But yes, we definitely want to bring this one back for an update.
Okay, thank you. And I can talk with our coach about kind of when that needs to happen and all of that. Well, don't worry about that, but just, yeah, thank you for kind of working to continue refining this to make sure we're giving the most accurate picture we can, and really having that conversation about progress. So thank you for all of this. I do also on that slide really want to pull out those two bright spots, even with the earlier testing, even with the other situation for our African American and Black students and our students of 2 or more races, and just ask a little bit more about that. I know the total number is fairly small. I know a lot of work has been done to increase awareness and access for our African American students of our dual language programs, including from some community members who did a lot of really strong work on that. And I would just love to hear a little bit more about what we're seeing and how we can be supportive of that growth continuing.
So one of the things that we're really focused on across the board is fidelity to implementation for all campuses. So the campuses that responded, that showed success, right, really pointed out some things, and it points that we're in the right direction for those campuses. So that's what we really focused on, is just that implementation with fidelity across all of the 57 campuses and 59 programs.
Thank you, and I appreciate hearing to Trustee Whitley-Chu's point that kind of good practices are good practices and they get good results. It's interesting to hear so much echoed. And Dr. Maxwell, did you have something to add?
I just wanted to also just honor the efforts that have been made for African American students participating in our dual language programs, and an effort to really support our students that are participating, and really focus on their success as well.
Thank you for that. And then I have a question about, kind of how we can support and what we need to be aware of as we look ahead. With a shortage of teachers, and in the online questions that are posted on board docs for our community questions that were asked ahead of the meeting, you explain the shortage and the source of the shortage and the depth of the shortage, and that it's not an Austin shortage, it's an everywhere shortage. Given what we know about that, and I know we bring teachers from other countries, I know we do this in a lot of different ways. Given what we know, do you feel like the number of programs we have is sustainable? And what should we be thinking about making sure that we really are able to staff what we have and support what we have in thoughtful ways?
Right, so in one of the questions that you discussed, we kind of looked at that answer, and exceptions, the number of exceptions has grown, and of course it is, right, it's a problem for us and for everyone. Some of the things that we are doing to manage that is really just aggressively recruit, yes. Also mentioning to our in-house certification programs that we're growing, that if we do have to file an exception, it's a very short period of time. I'll give kudos to Ms. Cardenas this year as well, who has a very tight per campus process for looking at the number of exceptions and ESL waivers that were on that campus last year. Any that might be more requested for this year. We definitely want to bring highly qualified teachers into our classrooms, but we also have to pay attention to the number of exceptions and waivers that we have. And so it's a tight process for those approvals, and then seeing how we can get teachers into our ESL academies, teachers into our bilingual certification academies, so that we're at least addressing it as soon as we know that it's there, and we're able to do that in-house, or we're about to launch that, to be able to do that in-house. So that's some of the work that we're doing towards that. It's definitely true that the larger number of campuses that you have that offer dual language programming, and this is really true for any programming, it gets difficult to offer everything everywhere. Because it gets difficult to find the teachers that can do that. By law, of course, our primary obligation is to serve emergent bilingual students in the program. And so we definitely have to look at maintaining those programs and staffing them as robustly as possible. And then we are looking across the district, just like many other programs and what we have going on, at what we can sustain in the near future, and having conversations about a good process for looking at campuses that offer the dual language program and that we would consider sustainable.
And I would like to add as well that this is something that we had initially started a conversation with Talent Strategy on, because in a previous district that I worked in, we were able to partner with Talent Strategy to cut down on some of the exceptions. So that's a conversation that we definitely need to revisit and partner with Talent Strategy.
Thank you. Trustees, any additional questions? All right. Thank you all so much for this presentation, the information. It's really informative. I feel like we learned a lot. So thank you all for the work you're doing and for sharing this with us and our public today. And thank you to my colleagues for this productive conversation and your good questions, both online and during our monitoring session. So now we must vote on whether or not we will accept this monitoring report. And as a point of clarity, we're voting to accept this report as a formal acknowledgement that we had a satisfactory conversation with the superintendent and have a deeper understanding about how the current reality for students lines up with our vision for them. So at this point, I will entertain a motion to accept this monitoring report.
I move to accept the monitoring report.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay, having a motion by Secretary Gonzalez and a second by Trustee Quintana to accept the monitoring report. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And the motion passes by all those on the dais. Superintendent Segura, are you waiting, or I have a little more to say? And okay, about this, wanted to be sure. Okay, I saw your hand on the button. That's it, don't be sorry. Thank you, trustees, for taking part in shared commitment to students and student outcomes. And the next item on the agenda is the board monitoring report on constraint 3, historically marginalized groups, 3.2, dual language. So we have some companion reports here. The presentation has been recorded and is available to view in board docs through the link in the agenda item. As a constraint, this item does not count toward our student-focused time. We believe it's neutral, but yes. And we've scheduled 30 minutes for the discussion. We need to confirm that our monitoring report is complete. Does anyone have evidence that the elements of an effective monitoring report are not present? All right, since everyone agrees that the required elements are present, we will turn the floor over to Superintendent Segura.
Thank you, President Boswell. I have joining me for this constraint, Dr. Marianne Maxwell, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Academics, and Yvette Cardenas, Director of Elementary Multilingual Education. And as you just mentioned, we do have a presentation that's been uploaded to board docs, where the team here takes everybody viewing through the presentation. But for completeness purposes, I do want to read the constraint, which states, Constraint 3, the superintendent shall not allow practices that lead to academic disparities within specific student populations, including African American students, emergent bilingual students, student receiving special education services. And the constraint progress measure, 3.2, states that the number of campuses scoring on track in the language of instruction domain of the locally developed dual language data collection tool rubric during walkthroughs will increase from baseline in June 2025 to Y in June of 2029. And so the team here is available to answer any questions that our trustees may have.
Trustee Hunter.
Thank you. This will be addressing collaboration gaps and observation. So the report indicates a consistent pattern of higher walkthrough scores from campus administrators compared to those from the multilingual team. What is the district's strategy to address these collaboration gaps and ensure reliable, aligned evaluation of dual language implementation across campuses?
Yes, thank you for the question. Specifically as part of this GPM isn't part of the data that's involved, but we wanted to report that data as part of addressing our root causes and seeing some of the takeaways and how we might address that in the future. So as with any, I think, walkthrough tool, it does take some time for calibration to really gel and for everyone to fully understand what the elements are on that walkthrough tool. The dual language data collection tool measures more than that, but specifically for this, we were just looking at language of instruction, which has those 3 different elements in it, and which you can see in one of the appendices. And we consider it a very powerful piece of dual language instruction. I talked about it a little bit earlier, but it seems like a simple thing, but it's actually a difficult thing to accomplish through all hours of the day in, day out. And a lot of times teachers too, and I certainly was a teacher that did this myself in an effort to make sure that the student understands what's happening. Sometimes even though you're in the second language, you're in the target language, you revert to what the student is comfortable with because you want the student to understand what's happening. And so that happens, and there are a few other things and markers that if you're just not in the practice of, are difficult to accomplish all day long. And so it's a simple but difficult, but it's impactful because that is truly how you build rich language and proficiency by continuing to teach and increase and have strong levels of content and expect academic vocabulary and really build that vocabulary of students in either the partner language or English. So it's a very powerful piece. And knowing that we were going to be looking at it so closely and that we had initial training on the data collection tool, but not really enough to feel like we were setting everyone up for success and everyone was very proficient on all of the pieces in that walkthrough tool. We did 2 sets of walkthroughs, and also administrators were doing lots of other walkthroughs with MTSS and everything else that was happening. And so knowing that where there were certain areas we definitely had to focus on, but we needed to make sure that this started well and that we had some good data. The administrators did it in the fall, and then the MET team went through every dual language classroom as well in the spring. So it wasn't just a sampling, it was every single classroom that the administrators had walked through in the fall so that we could begin to see and not just perform a calibration session, but really see whether or not our scores matched if we were both looking for the same thing. The MET team also did an additional calibration among their team before they went out and conducted the walkthroughs in the spring so that they felt that they were strong on what they were looking for. As anything, when you start and you're not familiar with all the components, you're going to see different things in the classroom when you go through. And it's different times as well. I may walk through a teacher's classroom and see every bit of it on a Tuesday, walk back through on a Thursday and see none of it because it's not, especially when it's first being implemented and monitored with fidelity, it's not necessarily something that is a consistent practice all the time. And so it could be that they went through the same classrooms and saw something different on a different day as well. It's kind of really why we wanted to have 2 sets of eyes on it for sure. And part of our methodology moving forward is to continue to have 2 sets of eyes on it in the spring, not necessarily all walkthroughs conducted by MET, but definitely a strong sampling of walkthroughs conducted by MET so that we can continue to make sure that we calibrate and we get stronger. One of the things we also mentioned, we had the early learning walkthrough constraint progress measure as well. And we had particularly high scores in early learning and had some suspicion that as we continued to develop our learning of what the early learning classroom would look like and really understanding of that, those might actually even drop. And so we might see that here too. We might see administrator scores drop a little as we calibrate more with the long-term goal of increasing them.
Thank you, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I don't want to use up all the time, since we have a very limited time, we only have 30 minutes. Some other, my colleagues may have some questions, so I just want to make sure, you did answer my question. And I have another piece, but I did want to say, like I said, we only have 30 minutes of time counting against us, so I want to make sure that we can get somebody else's questions, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustees, any additional questions? Trustee Singh.
Did you, I don't think this is, I'm not sure if this is in here, I don't see it, but did you see a difference in the level of implementation between campuses that were doing self-contained dual language versus the ones where you had different teachers coming in and out or moving the kids?
That is a great question, and so I'm going to write that down so we can look at that. So we are very aware of the classrooms that we walked into that are self-contained and that have partner teachers, but looking at it through that lens is what we'll do. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, any other questions? Mine have been asked and answered.
Mine have been asked and answered.
Trustee Kaufman?
My questions that would be approved as an LSG question have been asked and answered. I have others that I'll pose in written questions.
Yeah, Trustee Singh took my question.
Thank you. All right.
Just one comment before we close. This is one of those constrained progress measures that we will also want to come back with and provide a baseline, because the baseline that's currently written is an average of the spring observation and the fall observation, one conducted by the Multilingual Education Department and the other conducted by the administrators. And so the baseline should be an actual of where we are, which is going to tend to be, I think, lower than this number, which will reflect what's probably in the spring. So we need to kind of really think through, because as we move forward, that methodology is, given how we do the observations, is not going to be sustainable over the course of 5 years. So we're going to have to really think through what that looks like and ensure that's reflected. So I just want to make sure this is one of those other ones that we learned as we went through the year, and we'd like to bring it back, because I think that baseline number is going to come down a little bit as we build this out.
So for a point of clarification, when will we be looking at the proposed targets, and what are the LSG constraints around the board's involvement in that?
So I'll get with Jacob. I don't know, I'd like to have the baseline set before we start the school year. I don't know if it's something we can be back in June or if it can wait till August, but I think June would be the appropriate time to bring it back, and we can certainly give an update to the board. I don't know. I'm looking at Jacob. He's not necessarily looking at me the way I want him to. So probably best if he just answers that.
So part of our understanding when setting baseline data was knowing that we may need to wait for the appropriate data to be released, whether that's with taper. And so the expectation would be that once we have that data released, we should start setting targets and share those with the board. So those should follow. They may not all happen at once, because some of that data may come out at different times for, not this item, but for different items. But our plan would be that as soon as we are able to make targets off of this year's data, we will do so and bring to the board.
So when will it be appropriate for us to give our input regarding those? Do we have to wait for the proposed targets and then provide feedback? Or are we able to provide input prior to the goals, the preliminary numbers being set?
Yeah. I do know that as part of the LSG process, it's always appropriate to talk about the targets as part of the scorecard of constraint discussion items. But recognizing that we may not be ready to talk about that immediately right now, sending through our Let's Talk would also be great for providing feedback on that. And we can also provide updates on final data in our, it is board update, in our board update.
But we could take that now.
I'm ready now.
Yeah, okay.
So that sends it all.
Okay. All right, so I would just want to pose that given the importance that you stated in this report about the fundamental nature of language of instruction for program implementation, And given that this particular constraint was, this measure was formed on one element out of 7 that are fundamental, that are important for the implementation, I would like to really see high, ambitious target numbers for this in the very short term, so that we can see this pillar of dual language instruction be targeted and raised in a hurry up into the 90% range, I would say, and then maintain that with all the turnover and the new teachers, et cetera, over time. So I would really like to see one that, and given that this is 15 years into the program and we're working on the very core basic component of it, and given that the on target is set as, is defined right now as 50% of classrooms meeting this. So to say that implementation is on target when half of the teachers aren't doing this, it suggests that that's a very low target. So I would like to see a very rigorous, ambitious target for this.
Yeah, I think Yvette and I are on the same page with that. We talked about it earlier this week.
Thank you.
Also, just as a small note, it's also written as the number of campuses scoring on track, but it's reported as a percentage, and so we need to kind of look at that. It's also number of campuses rather than number of programs. So we have 59 programs because Jocelyn and Riley have 2, and so we might want to look at the number of programs that are on track rather than campuses.
Thank you. And I really appreciate, as Trustee Kaufman said, we did a lot of community engagement before we adopted this scorecard, and there were some specific things that our community told us were important that required some novel work, and really appreciate the opportunity to work with our Lone Star governance coach, who worked really hard with us to help kind of fit them in a way that works. And I know it's taken a lot of creativity on the staff's part in that root cause analysis, kind of figuring out how to get to that with data that makes sense to track with our community. So thank you for that. And I've already texted our coach, and I'm looking at the board self-evaluation, but haven't been able to find it yet on exactly what those guidelines are. And I know Dr. Reach and our coach will guide us well through that. So thank you for that. Any additional questions? All right. Thank you, everyone, for this productive conversation. It is, again, time to vote, and thank you for all the information. Now it's time to vote on whether or not we will accept this monitoring report. And as a point of clarity, we're voting to accept this report as a formal acknowledgement that we had a satisfactory conversation with the superintendent and have a deeper understanding about how the current reality for students lines up with our vision for them. And at this point, I will entertain a motion for accepting this monitoring report.
I move that we accept this monitoring report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Having a motion, is there any discussion? All right, having a motion by Secretary Gonzalez, a second by Vice President Willie Chu to accept the monitoring report. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And the motion passes by all those on the dais. Thank you so much. And thank you to the trustees for taking part in our shared commitment to our students and outcomes. And now we will move to our information reports and updates. And the next item on the agenda is an update on the TEA Special Education Agreed Order, which counts toward our discussion. It is student outcomes minutes and special education minutes. So these are specifically special education minutes under our TEA agreed order, and we have scheduled 45 minutes for this item. And Mr. Segura, can you please introduce it?
Absolutely, President Boswell. Thank you. Tonight I have joining me Dr. Cherry Lee, Interim Assistant Superintendent for Special Education, and Dr. Jacob Reach, Chief Officer of Government Relations and Board Services, to present the TEA Special Education Order Update.
Good evening, Superintendent Segura, President Boswell, and Board of Trustees. Very excited to be here tonight to go through our TEA agreed order, and very excited to have Dr. Lee joining me tonight. We're going to split up tonight's presentation a little bit, but we want to take some time to go back through our agreed order and talk where we're at now that we're getting towards the end of the year. So as you know, in March of 23, TEA issued a report stating its intent to assign a team of conservators to oversee special education in Austin ISD. The district then submitted and was later granted a request for informal review. In our request, we did ask TEA to reconsider the conservatorship in light of new information about what we had accomplished since that final report was issued. In August of 23, the Texas Education Agency provided an alternative plan for Austin ISD to consider in place of a conservatorship over special education. The board and the administration had a public hearing in September of 23 and an information session on September 14th. And that included an opportunity to go through the approved order, and we also got our first presentation on Lone Star governance. And then on September 25th, 2023, Austin ISD received the final negotiated proposal, which is what we refer to as the TEA agreed order. And the board did approve that on September 26, 2023. As part of that agreed order, we have also committed to providing regularly scheduled updates to the board and the community over the agreed order. And this includes an update on all of our required actions and upcoming information. As you know, there are really 5 parts to the agreed order. We have the overall agreement, which we also consider the Lone Star governance portion, and then 4 different priorities. On the right-hand side, we provided you a chart that helps us kind of track where we're at, and you can see that for many of these, we've accomplished all of the priorities. Some of these have continuation, so even though all of priority 4 is complete, we continue to do the parent engagement, continue to do the CFAC meetings, and we'll go over that in a minute. While we have completed the basic requirements under priority 3, we've shared with the board previously that there is some more work to do with that. I do want to briefly highlight priority 2 because we have some big updates coming on priority 2. So we shared earlier in the year that Austin ISD had actually completed training amazingly through our school staff and our academic staff and our SPED staff, training all teachers on tier training, which is tiered interventions using evidence-based research. And that set of training included multiple different parts, an overview of MTSS, supports for special education referrals, creating the instructional program, creating an assessment plan, developing and using an MTSS problem-solving team, ongoing professional development and support, MTSS relationship with other programs, your MTSS plan for an individual campus, and then last one, decision-making. So we're excited to say that by the end of this month, we will ensure that any staff who are new to the district this year will have completed all of those trainings as well. And this will become our basic cadence moving forward on the tier training to ensure that all of our new staff, when coming in, are receiving the same training so that we're continuing providing a similar and well-aligned MTSS program across our district. Another thing that I want to mention that's upcoming this month but not quite due yet is that this is the month that we have to ensure that we've completed all of our MTSS walkthroughs. And I want to bring that up because in June, we'll hit one of our major deliverables for the agreed order. And that is that we will have, following our full implementation of a full year with MTSS, with the walkthroughs and all of the supports, we will be providing to the board in June a report that's detailing the outcomes of campus and classroom walkthroughs and progress monitoring efforts. And this report will also include reporting performance by campus, level of instruction at elementary, middle, high school, number of teachers and staff referred for professional development and coaching, results of monitoring and walkthroughs post-coaching, and outcomes of the calibration effort. So that'll be our big deliverable of all the hard work that's gone in to MTSS this year. We'll do that at our June meeting. Once that is shared with the board, we will publish it and also share with TEA. So now I want to briefly go through a couple of our priorities, really highlighting data with Dr. Lee. Briefly, I always want to mention, because priority 1, which was satisfying those corrective action plans, was really what led to the agreed order to begin with. And so we are proud that we have completed that priority. We closed all 14 of the action plans. Dr. Lee and all of her colleagues actually closed a lot of those well before the deadline, but every one of them was closed by the deadline. Now we'd really like to take some time to go through some of our special education data. This is a report that our trustees are familiar with, but we want to make sure that we are taking an opportunity to discuss the data in a public meeting as well.
Thank you. Good evening. So per priority 3 of the TEA agreed order, we've established systems to facilitate reporting on the district's progress in meeting federal and state special education requirements for evaluation specifically. And our team submits detailed monthly reports of this data to TEA and to the school board, which you receive, and the report is also closely monitored by our TEA monitors. So data collected is directly tied to our state performance plan indicators, which is another acronym, SPPI 11 and 12, which are submitted to the state at the end of June each year. And I'm going to briefly review the SPP indicators now to provide additional context for the priority 3 data reporting requirements. So let's think of the priority 3 monthly reports as really progress measures or benchmarks as we prepare to submit this SPP 11 and 12 data to TEA, which again we do yearly. So SPP 11 tracks the timelines of initial special education evaluations for school-aged children. And it measures the percentage of students who are evaluated within 45 school days after the school receives written parental consent for evaluation, and that initial ARD meetings are held within 30 calendar days to determine eligibility and services. Now, meeting both of these timelines is legally required and also ensures that students who may need special education services are identified and appropriately supported, and it reduces delays in access to services. Now, SPP 12, that's the second indicator I mentioned, tracks whether children referred through early childhood intervention programs or otherwise ECI are evaluated if found eligible for special education services and have an IEP in place by their 3rd birthday. So this ensures a seamless transition from the early childhood services to early childhood special education services, minimizing those gaps. So in Texas, if a child is referred by an ECA agency before 3, schools must complete the evaluation, determine eligibility, and if appropriate, develop and implement an IEP, again, by the child's 3rd birthday. So let's dive into the metrics on slide 3, where you see special education referral and evaluation reporting data for the past 10 months. Again, this data serves as benchmarks as we track and monitor data for this June SPP 11 and 12 submission. For reference, data from July 2024 to the end of April 2025 is highlighted. And OOT indicates the numbers of evaluations or reevaluations that are out of timeline. So shown on rows 2, 3, and 4 are the cumulative number of pending evaluations and pending reevaluations. At the end of April, we had 1,056 pending initial evaluations, with 0 of those being out of timeline since February, and another 835 pending reevaluations, with 42 of those being out of timeline. At the end of April, our total pending evaluations count is 1,891, with 42 of those being reevaluations that were out of timeline. Let's move to rows 5, 6, and 7 to review the number of new initial referrals and reevaluations with and without parent consent per month. And again, we don't evaluate until we do receive that parent consent. We received 323 requests for new initial evaluations in April, which is an increase from the 277 initial evaluations the prior month. And we received 337 requests for new reevaluations, which is a decrease from 353 reevaluations the prior month. Comprehensively, for the total inflow for the month of April, as identified by the last cell in the table, we've had 660 new evaluations, which includes both initial and reevaluations. On slide 5, please review the number of pending initial ARDs that have missed their 30-day timeline in row 2, the number of pending initial ARDs that are within their 30-day calendar timeline in row 3, and the number of annual ARDs that have missed their 1-year timeline in row 4. In March and April, we've had 0 out-of-timeline initial ARD meetings. The second row shows the upcoming initial ARD meetings that are upcoming by month. And campus leaders and case managers track upcoming meetings, and they plan and schedule the meetings accordingly. At the end of April, we had 136 past due annual ARD meetings, as shown in the last cell in the table, which is significantly decreasing from February and March, as our district has provided focused outreach and follow-up to campus principals and case managers. Keep in mind that this data is dynamic from day to day because campuses submit referral requests daily, evaluators gain consent daily, and evaluations and initial ARDs are completed and finalized daily. All right, thank you.
So we want to talk a little bit now about priority 3, which is improved data systems. We have been doing our monthly submissions to TEA. Our reporting began back on October 1st, 2024. As you know, and as we've shared with the board, as part of our conversation with TEA and working with our staff and our campuses, we did determine that our best steps to ensure that we're meeting the requirements under improved data systems, and more importantly, meeting the needs of our students and our teachers, we are transitioning to a new SPED data system that we will start for the 25-26 school year. So a lot of these steps are really aligned with improving our data systems. So simultaneous efforts to ensure a smooth transition are underway, which include detailed professional development plan to ensure our district and campus teams receive comprehensive training to support use of the system. Our district level staff have attended in-person training sessions this week on Monday through Wednesday and are now attending virtual sessions to complete a deep dive on the training materials, so we are well prepared to roll out the training. In early June, our team rolls out training to special education case managers and SLPs who are supporting summer IEP writing and ARD meetings. School psychologists and diagnosticians will also be trained. In July, our campus leadership teams will receive training at Leadership Institute, and special education teachers will receive in-person training on August 12th and 13th at the start of the 25-26 school year. The PL plan goes beyond the training and also includes a plan for ongoing follow-up and coaching, virtual and real-time support, and a focus on tying the development of high-quality IEPs to the use of our digital management system. The AASD IT team and special education departments are partnering to develop the standard operating procedures, validate the data as the first round of data has now been imported into our frontline service plan management system, and monitor all aspects of implementation. Through lessons learned on some of our previous technology transitions, the team is going to be conducting 5 different loads of data transmission and then take time between each to ensure that data quality and integrity. So I kind of mentioned this to Dr. Lee earlier, and she took part in the training earlier this week. So if she's willing to give just a very high-level overview of what went on in the training this week.
Yeah, absolutely. So our in-person training was held daily on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday here at HQ on the 2nd floor. And we had all members of our special education staff that are going to be trainers. So basically, we received that initial training to be able to roll out the training successfully. It was kind of the we do part of the training. We had initially attended a virtual session with our frontline service plan trainers, and so they provided that I do part of the training where we observed what the system is going to look like. We were able to get in and start practicing using the system, and then this was actually, the last 3 days has been that in-person training, the we do part of the training, where we started practicing using the system with guidance from our frontline training partners. And then the next 2 days, we're going to have virtual training to look at all of the resources we'll be using to support teachers and with the system as well. So we want to feel very prepared at the district level to roll out this training for all of our staff, and that's what this week has been all about. All right, so I will provide an update on Priority 4, which requires Austin ISD to establish a parent and family advisory group, and we call that our Special Education Family Advisory Committee, or CFAC. And so we held 6 CFAC meetings this school year, and our last CFAC meeting was last week on April 28th, and members provided specific feedback on a transition and advancement family guidance document to support families with resources when their children matriculate from early childhood services to elementary, and then from elementary to middle, and then from middle to high school. And the guidance document itself was generated from recommendations made by several parent members of the group. And the district leaders went ahead and created that document. We provided that document back to CFAC members, and they gave extensive feedback on the document. It's under final revisions, and it will be shared with families this next school year. So CFAC also reviewed district email communication that will go out to families at the launch of the 25-26 school year. And again, we had CFAC members that said we appreciated the letter that case managers sent to our families this year at the beginning of the year to introduce themselves. That was a great step, and that was also a recommendation from CFAC. But they also said we want to see a letter coming from the district as well. And so we drafted a letter for our CFAC members to review. And they gave us additional recommendations as to what should be in that district communication. And that did include case management and support information for families, information on how families will receive progress reports. It will also include information on how parents will access the parent portal, which is will be in Frontline. That's our digital management system. And how will parents access their children's documents and sign consent and provide consent for documents. It'll also provide information on our family engagement opportunities throughout the year. It'll provide information on our family newsletter, which I'll talk about shortly, information and links to our district special education external website, and then information on how to contact our ombudsman. So again, this district distribution of this communication is not going to replace the beginning of the year communication that case managers are expected and required to provide to families, but it's going to supplement it. Additional CFAC input over the course of the year included recommendations for district-level dissemination of a special education newsletter via email. So special education is partnering with our communications team, and our spring newsletter was sent to families in April, and the summer newsletter will be distributed in the next coming weeks. Additional input from CFAC included recommendations for increased focus on transition services for students with disabilities, as well as inclusion. And the transition services for students with disabilities and the newly formed inclusion work groups are now underway. The inclusion work group will focus on a few key goals, which include reviewing and finalizing our guiding principles of inclusion and developing a finalized document to drive future work, creating practical toolkits for elementary and secondary campus teams, and then developing guidance for campuses to implement engaging events to raise awareness and promote understanding of disability awareness. Our inclusion work group is going to be comprised of 32 members. We had almost 50 persons apply for the group, and that first meeting is going to happen next Tuesday here at HQ. And the work group plans to meet approximately once every 6 to 8 weeks for roughly an hour to 2 hours per session, and Bailey Gates is leading that work. Dr. Frances Stetson is actually going to kick off our first meeting in person, and she'll be here next week to do that. Additionally, based on input, we will add a CFAC parent co-chair for the 25-26 school year, and this will be a volunteer position, and that person will collaborate with district-appointed co-chairs to help shape the agenda and really define the scope and the focus for discussions and activities as we move on. So before I pass the microphone to Dr. Reach, I would like to highlight Better Hearing and Speech Month. In each May, we join the American Speech and Language and Hearing Association, also known as ASHA, to recognize Better Hearing and Speech Month, but to really celebrate the vital work of our Austin ISD speech-language pathologists and audiologist teams. We also want to raise awareness about communication disorders that impact not only students here in Austin ISD, but really millions of persons nationwide. We know that communication is key to learning and connection, and our speech pathologists and our audiologists help to support that and make it possible. So this month and every month, we want to thank all of our Austin ISD SLPs and audiologists for their expertise, compassion, and dedication to student success. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Lee, before we go to the last slide, I did want to mention that I do get the opportunity to meet with our monitors and hear feedback. And one of the things that they shared with me following the meeting that was it 2 weeks ago, the last CFAC meeting?
April 28th.
April 28th.
Yes.
Is that they really witnessed a lot of genuine two-way dialogue during that meeting, and had heard from some of the CFAC members that they felt that this was really moving towards that meaningful, productive back and forth and getting parent input. And they just provided such good feedback on how CFAC is going. I know that at the start of CFAC, we were still trying to learn and figure out how it goes, but I think CFAC is going really well now, and I hope any trustees that are interested, our meetings are always open to the public.
Absolutely, and we do take feedback as well. The meetings are open, and we've been in progress for about 1.5 years now. So members that are currently serving on CFAC have another term, have another semester. They'll reapply because current members can reapply to be a part of CFAC for the next 2-year term. They can reapply doing so, and information to them was provided at this last meeting, and it'll be provided again to them as well in the fall. But we're also accepting new members, so we encourage new members to apply as well through our external website.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our main agreement also includes a focus on ensuring that the district was creating the governance and administrative conditions necessary to achieve compliance. To do that, certain additional requirements were included that we've referred to as the Lone Star governance portion of the agreement. The portion required certain changes for board policies and procedures. Mostly, and I'm going to read this one out, that the board will engage in quarterly self-evaluations using the LSG Implementation Integrity Instrument. And the board must achieve a meet focus score within 2 years of the board completing the LSG workshop in alignment with the LSG Implementation Integrity Instrument. And in order to maintain its meet focus score on the LSG Implementation Integrity Instrument, the board will continue working with the LSG coach for 3 consecutive quarters after reaching meets focused. So I know that I read it a lot there, but I'll try to briefly summarize it, is that one of the requirements of the order was that the board do their quarterly self-evaluation. You completed your last one just 2 weeks ago. It also required that within 2 years, which we did that training in fall of 23, which meant that we had until fall of 25, that we needed to meet that first meets focus. The board actually did that in 1 year. They met their first meets focus 1 year after doing the training in August of 24. And then following that, the board needed to maintain that meets focus or higher, of course, for 3 consecutive quarters. So including October, January, and April, those are our 3 consecutive quarters. And so that is another item that the board has completed as part of our Lone Star governance requirements. So I certainly wanted to highlight that. We will do our next evaluation on August 28th, 2025. And then we'll do another one in October, which will also include our end of the year evaluation on LSG for the board at that time. So that is kind of a highlight of our approved order. We have a very big approved order update, as I shared, to bring next month, when we'll go through a lot of our walkthrough data and other important information for the end of the year. As another reminder, we will also continue to do our quarterly update on the special education strategic plan. And we did that one last month, so we're not due again for that one for another 2 months. So we'll bring that back in the new school year. But that will end our presentation for tonight.
Thank you so much for this presentation. Trustees, are there any questions? Trustee Kaufman.
So thank you for the presentation. On the initial, on page 2, where it shows the orders, for priority 2, it shows 35 met and 12 to remaining. I may have missed something, but I don't see a document that shows priority 2 on the slides in terms of that update.
We didn't have any anything new. We just had other things upcoming.
Okay.
And so I did not have a standalone slide, but that's where I mentioned the completion of the tiers training.
So if we go back then to the other pieces, so I didn't hear on number, if you go back to the original order on page 19, number 9, on establishing a continuum of service models for providing free and appropriate public education to students with disabilities in the least restrictive environment, with a deliverable of the map, service map, showing what's available within feeder patterns and on home campuses. Where does that stand, and what is the progress on that?
Would you mind telling me the page?
Page 19 and 20. There's number 9 on page 19, and the deliverable is the first bullet on page 20.
Yeah, no, thank you. I do want to speak a little bit about that specific training that we rolled out. So for the continuum, we did provide that training on November 5th. Actually, the special education team rolled out that training to principals. It was provided in 2 ways. One, campus staff went through an asynchronous training and a flipped learning model. So they completed a flipped learning module online through our HCP platform. And then principals came together and rolled that out in an in-person session to really make it meaningful for their campus, to review the specific services that they provided on their campus, to build capacity around the continuum of services training. So again, it really was rolled out on November 5th specifically, but it did include like that flipped learning module. So we had folks going through an asynchronous module, and then principals leading participants or their staff members through an in-person training. We did require an attestation and plans from principals as well regarding that training, and that training was pre-approved by our monitors.
For the actual map piece, though, on the deliverables, the action items, it says there'll be a continuum of services map. So I understand that there will be development. So number 9 is establish a continuum of service model. And then number 10 is provide that training, but the first bullet point says there'll be a continuum of services map.
Right, and so when we're thinking of a map, I'm not really thinking necessarily of a map that shows locations per se, but really mapping all the services that are identified in our school district, right?
So where would that,
so like early child.
So where would that be available for parents or for community members to see?
What programs are offered?
Yeah.
Sure. So on our external district website, when you search by campus, it does identify specific programs and services that are provided on those campuses. And if parents have any questions, they can definitely contact their campus, or they can contact our department as well. And all that information has been provided to the monitors and TEA. And we'll submit all of that data. So when you're looking at those 12 additional deliverables, those are due May 30th to the agency. So we're currently reviewing all of those with the monitors now. Yeah.
Trustee Kaufman, I think similar to how we do with some other programs, dual language quickly came to mind, where we say, here are the campuses that have, one way, here are the ones that have 2-way. I think that we can discuss how we can also make that a one page to show where these programs are.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. And the other thing is, we don't offer early childhood special education services at all of our elementary school campuses, right? That is not offered at all of them. We don't offer bilingual special education services at all campuses either, so that's another piece. I will say we have a full continuum of services across all of our middle and high schools, so all services and programs are offered at all of our middle schools and high schools. Some of our elementary schools have really low numbers, right, of students, and we're not able to provide the full continuum from, beginning with early childhood special education. Yeah.
So as that action item is completed, will the results of that impact choices of what campuses people attend, or will it impact the assignment of students to campuses, or where they're going to be offered the services that their students need? And if so, will the May 31st completion of that provide adequate time for those, changes of assignment to happen, or for parents to make informed decisions?
Absolutely. So if it is determined that a campus doesn't have the appropriate services that a student needs, that would be an ART committee decision to determine placement at another campus that would be able to provide those services. So again, those decisions are going to be made in the confines of an ART. But I do hear your question and your inquiry, and I also think that we could provide that and make that publicly available as well.
Right. So really, what I'm hearing though is that those decisions, that information is already known in terms of if a student needs services that are not available on one campus, that there is information provided so that the art committee can make a recommendation that they need these services or that they can be provided elsewhere, and that we're not waiting for May 31st for that process to happen.
Absolutely not. And I do want to point out that speech language services, occupational therapy services, physical therapy services, adaptive PE, dyslexia services, those services are offered at every one of our Austin ISD campuses.
So what is there, I guess I'm just trying to understand as a recovering principal from this district, how is that different from what we've done for 20 years? Like how is what TA is asking us to do on this in terms of developing a service map? How is that different from what we've been doing in terms of identifying what programs students need and where they can be offered?
Right. So we have been, already doing this, like you said, you've served as a campus principal. It's a continuation of that. Part of the ask from TEA was to ensure that campus general education teachers, teaching assistants, and special education teachers have a really good understanding of what the continuum of services looks like, so that when they are participating in ARDS, they can provide meaningful participation because they understand what that term means. What does the continuation of services or the continuum of services means? What does least restrictive environment means? So part of this training ask was to ensure that all teachers and campus administrators understood what the service continuum looks like. And part of that service continuum includes teachers and principals' understanding of accommodations and modifications, related services, instructional services, the differences between related services and instructional services. So all of that was baked into that training. But the mapping piece isn't necessarily like creating a geographical map. I mean, we do have that, but it's also just continuing or considering the continuum of services. I also want to highlight transition services for students with disabilities in that continuum as well. And that's an area that our department has really been focusing on improving and increasing as well.
Okay. And tell me more about how that is an ARD decision. Like how is the placement of a student in a program other than what is offered at their home campus? How is that an ARD decision, and what role does the ARD play in that, and what rights does the parent have in that?
Right, and it's part, like I'll refer to bilingual special education services. So if you are conducting an ARD for a student that's receiving special education services who is also an emergent bilingual, you're definitely going to want to have an LPAC member as a part of that ARD meeting. If it is determined that a student needed bilingual speech services or some type of bilingual supports, be it early childhood special education, some type of resource support, other behavior supports in Spanish, then the ARD committee could determine that the student needed those services in Spanish in special education, and if that campus did not offer a bilingual program, right, then we would look at potentially placing a student where those special education services could be provided in Spanish.
Okay. Does the ARD make that decision about what campus it would be? Or,
yes.
And what rights do families have in
So we're always going to look at a campus that's closest to the home campus. Our goal is to, provide the continuum of services at the child's home campus. If those services aren't able to be provided at that home campus, then we're going to look at a geographic location that is closest to the child's home campus to reduce transportation.
Okay, so again, does that mark any kind of change in what we already are doing? Is TEA asking us to, or directing us to do something different from what we've historically done?
No, they are not. They are wanting to make sure that the participants on that ARD committee, which include our campus principals and our teachers, general education and special education teachers, understand that continuum, right? And so that they're able to fully participate as informed members.
Okay. Yes, and then I have one more after we follow up on this issue.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to, in this conversation about the mapping and the ARD committee decisions,
yes.
I'm wondering if what patterns, if any, we're seeing in what programs are available. So for, I assume this is what we're calling a centralized placement, right? When the ARD committee is moving a student somewhere else, are we seeing any patterns in the district, or as far as, student populations that have further distance to get to a specialized program? So I'm thinking like scores or something that might not be on every campus. Are those dispersed equitably across the district, or are we seeing areas of need that we need to address somehow?
So we are always looking at projections as we prepare, for the upcoming year. We do projections, or we conduct projections twice a year in December and then again in April to make sure that all campuses are adequately staffed. And so there's a couple of considerations as we look at those projections. If we determine that there's a growing population of students that need a specific service at that home campus, we'll look at adding another teacher or another service provider to that campus to ensure that campus provide those services. One of the things that we are seeing, or one of the trends when you're asking about trends, is we're seeing an increase in the number of students that are receiving dyslexia services with some changes in the dyslexia laws. So currently we have 125 dyslexia interventionists across the district. Dyslexia services are provided at every school. But we are seeing, like I said, an increase in services and also an increase in a need for dyslexia services provided in Spanish as well. So those are some things we're seeing. We're also seeing an uptick and an increase in the number of evaluations or referrals coming from these early childhood intervention agencies. And so we're seeing an increase in the need for early childhood special education services, including bilingual early childhood special education.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify, so in relation to Trustee Kaufman's question, while you're talking about a different type of mapping, we are also looking geographically across the district for areas of need so that we can staff geographically appropriate if needed.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Okay, thank you. And then I just have another entirely different line of questions, and that is going back to page 5 with the priority 3 on special education data reporting chart.
Yes.
Where it shows the past due annual ARDS. I'm curious what the TEA expectations are around reducing or eliminating that number of past due annual ARDS.
Okay, so you're talking about
Where it shows that
row
at the
4.
end of April 25, we have 136 past due annual ARDS. Is there an expectation that we need to meet from TEA in terms of the number of past due annual ARDS?
So that's not actually one of our SPP data sets that we do report to TEA. However, that is closely monitored by not only our district, but also our TEA monitors. So that is something that's very closely monitored as well. So yes, we're monitoring that as well as our monitors.
And is there an expectation around past due initial ARDS? Like our initial ARDS, is that part of our?
That is part of the SPP data submission, and that is something that TEA is directly tracking and is provided on this data set as well.
Okay, so the past due reflects some degree of resource allocation to ensure that we're meeting the 0 target for past due initial?
Yes, that's correct. And we currently.
So is there a timeline or a strategy for how and when we can get that reduced to 0 for past due?
Absolutely, because that is part of our SPP 11. There's 11A and 11B. So when we're looking at those annual ARDS, initial ARDS held within that timeline, that is part of that SPP data set, and that's part of this benchmark, which is this priority 3 data set. So we do have we have an internal dashboard that we use that's been really helpful, and we created that about 2 years ago, and all campus department chairs and principals and assistant principals have access to this, and it's provided a really clear way for not only the campus but the district and executive directors to track this data. Now, with the transition to our new frontline service plan management digital management system, we no longer are going to have to rely on this external dashboard. This data and these metrics are going to come directly from this new frontline plan. The current platform that we're using did not have the capability to offer that dashboard for like a quick look. So campus principals can basically pull up the dashboard and track all of their campus level data. Yeah, so we're excited about this shift, and we're also looking forward to being able to pull some of those initial reports so that we can ensure this new dashboard that we'll be using through Frontline Service Plan Management is going to be accurate and easy to use as well. That's an important component because we'll be having to train our case managers, department chairs, and our principals on how to utilize that.
Do we anticipate then being able to bring that number down to what by when?
So you're looking at the
136 past due annual ARDS at the end of April 25.
Right. So you're at. So the expectation.
What is the timeline for being able to bring that down, and what is our target for that? Is our target to get to 0, or is our target? Is there a different number, and then kind of what is the expected timeline?
Well, right now we have an internal department goal, right?
Yeah.
That we will have absolutely no annual ARDS out of timeline. But as you see, there's 136 there. That is a significant decrease from where we were back in, February. And again, that's concerted monitoring efforts from our department and our campus support coordinators.
It's also similar to where we were in July of 24. So I'm wondering, are we anticipating there's going to be another, like it goes up during the course of the year and then comes back down, or are we I'm just kind of trying to understand like the trend for that and what we can expect to see in terms of eliminating that number. Like we see on this data it's going from 155, then all the way up to 269 and 308, and then back down to 136. Is that kind of what we would expect to see over the course of the year next year, or do we expect to see that it's going to be coming down because our systems are improving and our resources are being?
Well, definitely our goal is that all annual ARD meetings are held on time. That's the goal, and that's the expectation from our district, as well as, that campus leaders need to be closely tracking that and ensuring that their case managers, are monitoring those timelines. To your point, part of this frontline training rollout, we are going to be supporting case managers with, really looking at year at a glance, right, month at a glance for planning those annual ARDs.
I don't want to take any more of your time. I really just trying to get at that target. Like, what are we anticipating for the numbers? Do you have an idea on that, Matthias?
I mean, our goal is that we have 0 out of timeline.
I share the goal, but I don't have.
So we have to go back to the scorecard because this is one we've been tracking for quite some time. We have a trend line that's been going down since I think March of 2023, and so we track it by quarter. That's the way we originally proposed it to TEA. We are sharing it monthly. So I can pull it up very quickly and show you exactly where we expect to be and what we're supposed to be by December 2025, which is.
Let me follow up. Thank you. Thank you.
Trustees, any other questions? Trustee DeRogatis?
So, yeah, if I could piggyback on Trustee Kaufman just a little bit more. So with those trends, what, if any, patterns are we seeing for, what might be delaying annual ARDs? Or, is there a differentiation in kind of the grade levels? Like, is this happening more at high school, middle school, elementary?
Yeah, when we're, and we do track actually by cohort. So we look at elementary, we look at middle, we look at high school. Typically, the majority of our out of timeline past annual ARDs is happening at high school. And, some of the, some of the challenges could be, working with parents and having parents, be able to attend the ARDs on time. So it's really helping our case managers ensure that they're communicating with families early enough and, making sure that they're, offering opportunities for families to come when they're able to attend. But again, the majority of our non-compliance with these annual ARDs is at our secondary levels.
Okay, that's interesting. Is it similar with the re-evals, or I know those tend to happen. I think more often with as students are maturing at the earlier grades. Are we seeing similar or different patterns for out-of-compliance re-evals or for overtime re-evals?
For overtime re-evals or annual ARDs? Because the first metric you were talking about was for annual ARDs.
Right, and so you're saying that that's more often at high school, and so now I'm asking for the re-evaluations. Is it a similar pattern, or is it a different pattern that we're seeing?
For out-of-timeline for re-evaluations, yes, because typically students are getting evaluated initially in elementary school. Their first reevaluation, if students are evaluated for special education services, in early elementary, then that first reevaluation or 3-year triennial would be happening in elementary. But yes, I would say that the majority of those would be secondary, middle school, and high school as well.
Okay, for the out-of-time lift?
Yes.
Okay. And then, given the pattern that Trustee Kaufman was pointing out here, can you speak more to, any of the interventions that you all have been focusing on that has brought that number down more recently?
For the initial?
Yeah, sorry, for the
annual?
I would say across the board,
Okay.
because there seem to be some similar patterns on some of these.
Yeah. So for this past due annual ARDs, we have compliance coordinators. We have 3 compliance coordinators at the special education district level, and then we have 10 campus support coordinators. So between that group of 13 persons, they do provide in-person and virtual and email support. So again, we're working with campus principals to make sure that annual ARDs are being held. We're working with our case managers. We provide email follow-ups. We provide monthly reports, weekly reports, and then when annual ARDs are out of compliance, we're providing daily follow-up to get these completed, and working with campuses to support if there's any kind of support that they need, right? And helping to figure out how we can get these held on time.
And sorry, one second. Let me see which slide here. For the intensive trainings that you all are planning on, August 12th through 14th, can you speak a little bit more as far as what you're covering in there? Because I know some of the things that we're targeting are very specific around annuals and evaluations, but the ARD process is obviously a lot more than that, and the SPED process is more than that. Can you speak more what we're targeting for those trainings and maybe how you pick those?
On August 12th and 13th?
Yeah.
Right, so August 12th, we're going to have all of our elementary school case managers and dyslexia interventionists attending in-person training around the district. August 13th will be for our secondary case managers, and that's when we're actually going to be providing training on this digital management system transition. So it'll be frontline service plan management. So we'll actually be teaching them how to use this new system because all of the student level data will be in these systems. So we're going to train on all areas of the IEP. We'll be training on documenting personal care services. We'll be training on progress reports as well. So all of those components will be in that training.
So in that newer system, is that going to assist with any of the elements that we're seeing as far as the compliance with the annual Rs and the compliance with the timelines in general that we're working on here?
I mean, we're definitely going to be stressing timelines as well as high quality development of IEPs as part of that digital management system training. So it's not just going to be, the very technical aspects of how to enter the data, how to use the system, but we're also going to be tying it to managing your timelines of the caseload of the students that you serve, but also how to develop that high quality IEP, which we trained on this past year on August the 13th. So really pulling all of those pieces together into this training. But again, we want our case managers to come away from the August 12th and 13th training feeling confident and ready to use the system. Something that we've heard in previous training rollouts is that teachers did not receive a comprehensive training, right? They didn't receive that training. They didn't feel ready to use the system. And yes, if case managers don't feel ready to use the system, that can definitely cause delays in any of these areas, right?
And then just, we've kind of spoken over some of these past meetings about this new information management, data management system. I'm curious if this is tying in at all to some of the parent outreach part as far as the communication. I know that's one of the things we hear a lot from the families. So how are we looking to use that system, if at all, for that family outreach part?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and that's actually something that we're working with Joshua G on. He's our project manager, and he's sitting back here. But one of the components that was lifted from our Special Education Family Advisory Committee is that they wanted to make sure that families understood how to use the parent portal. So the parent portal is the digital management systems, I would say, way that parents can access their child student special education records, and that they also receive documentation to sign. So for instance, when a parent is going to, provide consent for an initial evaluation, a parent is able to do that digitally, and they access those documents through the parent portal. When a parent receives a child's IEP progress reports, they receive those digitally through the parent portal. We also understand that some families may prefer to sign, right, or that may not have access digitally, so we do provide various modes and modalities for parents to access the materials. But again, the majority of the parents are accessing these materials either through their phones or, through their laptops to sign and access. So that's an important part of the training, is to ensure that, the training for case managers to understand how they can share with parents how the parents will be accessing the materials, but also just to, provide training videos and quick information for parents on how they'll be using this parent portal. Because again, we're changing digital management systems, and parents have been using a parent portal through PCG or EdPlan, which is our current system, but now they'll be accessing documents through the Frontline Service Plan Management Parent Portal. So that is a transition for families too. And CFAC definitely wanted us to acknowledge that and also make sure that we communicate with them ahead of time to let them know that the system change is occurring.
And is, I guess within that system, how is there anything inherent in the system, or how are we looking for addressing accessibility for families that don't have English as the first language?
That's a great question too. So one of the things that we negotiated and required from Frontline is that documents would be translated in Spanish. So that is a feature that the system provides. We're working with them now to look at translation in other languages as well. Right now, everything that the system provides in English can be translated automatically into Spanish. So there's not going to be lag time for families that need those documents in Spanish.
Just to clarify, is that also the parts that a teacher might be input in, like or is it just the form that gets translated?
So it could be progress reports. It could be the notice and the consent that parents are provided when providing consent for evaluation for their child. It could be the IEP document itself. So everything in the IEP document, right? The progress, the goals, the services, the entire document will be translated as well for families.
Okay, just 100%, whatever the teacher types in, that's going to get translated to automatically?
Whatever the are you talking about within the IEP?
Yeah, like, like the summary notes and everything else that gets
all of
typed.
that will be translated for families.
Oh, wow.
We don't have to send that off for translation or use a different system, some type of filter or anything like that. That will all be provided within the system.
And then maybe one last question, but for the family outreach part and the parent campaigns, are we doing anything there to differentiate for different families, or how are we looking at our particular campuses of need? Because I know there's disparity in access for families on some of those campuses. So if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, and CFAC has definitely lifted that and provided guidance as well. And two of the main components that we're hearing is really we need additional outreach to our PTAs, and also, to ensure that families who have children who are receiving special education have opportunities and are encouraged to, participate on the PTA and any other, organizations on their campus as well. So I'm thinking about CACs as well and making sure that we have parent representation. So that is something that we'll be working with our parent support specialist on, as well as our new family learning and engagement specialist, which is a new position that we were able to create on our special education team. Really excited about that position and that person coming on board because that person's going to really lead a lot of these efforts, as well as working with other community organizations and advocacy groups as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That.
Trustees, any additional questions about this? I just have one. Going back to slides 4 and 5, just a follow-up about the question about the out-of-timeline reevaluations in the past due annual ARDs, just given the importance of that data and moving towards zero. If we could just get a monthly update. I know we don't get a monthly update, always here, but if we could get a monthly update on that in our superintendent's report.
Oh, in the superintendent's update?
Mm-hmm.
Do that.
Could that be helpful?
Yeah, and we have been providing board updates with this information, but it sounds like...
We have been doing board updates,
Okay.
but everything we're talking about is she wants a superintendent update. So
Okay.
on as part of my presentation on the regular board meeting.
Thank
That
you.
would be helpful.
Thank
you. I want to be sure we're really paying attention to it. So,
Thank you.
And that our public's paying attention to it as well. So as we move toward that. Yes.
I would also be interested in seeing for the reevaluations if there's any differentiation between domains, like if it's specifically speech evaluations, or if there's a disparity on the type of evaluation that's going over a timeline.
Right now or in the future?
Just in those type of updates. I mean, I don't know if there's specific areas of need or if it's evenly across all domains that we're doing evaluations. I mean, maybe that's related to staffing a little bit. But it would be, I'd be interested to see if there are specific evaluation categories that are going over timeline as compared to something just uniform.
Okay, thank you. We can provide
that as part of a board update. That's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, thank you for this presentation. Trustees, thank you very much for the conversation about this as we continue to monitor. Our last information item tonight is an update about our district turnaround plans for Burnett Webb and Dobie, that the TEA required turnaround plans. This item does not count toward our student outcome minutes. And before Superintendent Segura begins his presentation, I want to thank everyone who's been here tonight to make comment, everyone who's watching from home and being part of for the presentation and discussion. And as people who've been following our board know, we are required to balance the time we spend in board meetings between discussing student outcomes measured in our district scorecard with time spent on all other topics. And we have a lot of other topics right now with the budget, turnaround plan, school consolidations. And we learned yesterday that time we spent at our student outcomes focused budget workshop in February is not counting for our student outcome minutes, it's counting against our student outcome minutes. And as a result, we want to be especially careful about how we're spending our time as we discuss all of the important issues before the board. And what that means for our meeting tonight is that Superintendent Segura and his team will give an abbreviated update on this item tonight, and we'll provide a more in-depth video presentation that will be available on the Austin ISD website and on board docs as soon as possible. And we hope that you will watch it, send your questions and your input, and join us when we continue this conversation at a future meeting. We also encourage you to watch a special meeting about this important topic from Friday, May 2nd, that we held to share some important updates with our community. And these conversations are very important to the board, the administration, and our community. So we will work to ensure this information is both transparent and accessible to our community, even as we are addressing it a little bit differently than we expected tonight. So with that change, Superintendent Segura, can you please introduce the next item?
Thank you, President Boswell. I have joining me Brandy Hosick, Chief of Talent Strategy, Dr. LaTanya Amerson, Interim Assistant Superintendent of School Improvement, Dr. Angel Wilson, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Schools, Dr. Jacob Reach, Chief of Government Relations and Board Services, and we'll provide the overall update. We'll just hop right into it. One of the things we wanted to do, we just remind our community that we had a presentation and a board conversation on Friday, and this slide here identifies the recommended strategy that the administration brought forward, which is the district managed restart. Just to be clear, this is AISD managed restart. This is part of a larger strategy, as we move to the next slide, that includes executing this starting immediately. Seeking approval on June 12th. Our timeline allows us to go until June 30th, but a tremendous amount of work has to occur in late spring and over the summer for us to successfully launch in August of 2025. I want to be very clear that the strategy that we're recommending also does include an 1882 option as a contingency. So in the event that the AISD restart does not appear to be working as we believe that it will, then in December we would have the opportunity to transition to an 1882 partnership. We would start the procurement in August, identify partners that we'd be able to negotiate with so that we could ensure alignment with our values and also our expectations as we support the overall school system. The one thing I do want to point out before I leave this slide is that if we were to execute that option, 25-26 would then become a pause year. When you enter into an 1882 partnership, assuming it's approved by TEA, you receive 2 pause years, and the third year is the accountability year. So if that was the option for any one of these schools that was exercised, 25-26 would be pause year 1, 26-27 would be pause year 2, and 27-28 would be the accountability year. As you move to the next slide, I want to be very clear that in December of 2025, so a little over 7 months from now, or 8 months from now, 7 months, we will have a decision to make. We will have to rely on the information that we have available to us at the time, which is yet to be determined. We'll work with our technical partner and with our team to define what those items are, or those data points are, but we will have to take that and make a recommendation as to whether we believe that the school will be able to meet accountability by the end of that year. And so I want to be very, very clear that we expect our schools to make progress. There's no doubt in my mind that our schools will make progress. But making progress doesn't necessarily, or may not necessarily translate to making accountability. We know that to be true. We actually have just seen that with many of our schools that have progressed, but don't quite get that letter grade. And again, we have to move to a D and ultimately a C to break the accountability chain. And so there's going to be a lot of thoughtfulness and intentionality, and we'll have conversations with the board and our community. But at the end of the day, in December, we'll be faced with a decision as to whether we transition and exercise that option or not. And the information we'll have will be incomplete. It will be one that will rely on assumptions. And so I just make it very, very clear that at that point, if we choose to stay with Austin ISD's own restart, and we do not make accountability, and assuming that 24-25 gets released, and 23-24 gets released, and 24-25 is an F and not a D or better, then 25-26, assuming we stay with the Austin ISD restart plan, would in fact be the 5th year. So just to be crystal clear that there's a lot that we'll have to consider at that moment. So as we move to the next slide, I just want to give an update regarding where we are on various efforts as part of the plan. We've structured this presentation to be around the 5 levers, just providing a brief update where we are on some of them. So lever 1, it's really around campus leadership. We are going through that process now. We are having to do a lot of this work in a relatively short period of time, and given the cycle of school years and how contracts close out for the end of a school year, and as the hiring process starts, a lot is occurring in a relatively short period of time, and we understand that's frustrating. But we are unfortunately having to do all this in a fairly condensed period of time. Next slide. The strategic staffing is something that you've heard a little bit about from our callers and from us in the last presentation. We are currently evaluating the staff at these 3 middle schools. And to be very, very clear, because it is an Austin ISD restart, the staff that are being evaluated are instructional staff. So our classified staff, staff that are tied to electives, those all are not part of the kind of transition of staff or the evaluation. So that work is occurring right now. Brandy Hosick is leading that effort. It's really, really important that we create a recruiting environment to attract educators that meet the criteria that are going to be set. The main kind of point here is that they have to be identified as highly effective, using criteria that are approved by TEA. So we know that TIA is one of them, which is a teacher incentive allotment, as well as our previously used evaluation methodologies, which have been in place for quite some time. Go to the next slide, please. So lever 3, it's really about school culture, making sure that we build on the success that we've already seen at these schools. There's a lot that we will build and incorporate into our plans. We've heard a lot over the last couple of weeks, specifically with Dobie, and we're having those conversations in the coming weeks with Burnett and Webb. If you go to the next slide, you'll see what 2 of these examples look like. Just to call out a couple highlights. So we know that there's going to have to be intentional work around the summertime, and we know that we're going to have to engage with families, and you can see here making phone calls to families, home visits even, building relationships, and really understanding the challenges that our students or families may be facing. So it's going to be very intentional. We're talking like picking up the phone, calling our families, making sure our families understand where their student is and what supports we can provide into the summer and then and beyond. The other thing that I'd like to point out is just the ongoing partnerships with community partners. It's very, very important. It's part of the plan. It's something that will be built out. And what we're sharing here is the framework. So there'll be a lot that's added to this. We just want to be really clear about what's required. So what we submit to TEA will be the plan, but the plan that we execute will be much more than that, with much more detail and a lot more elements that I think truly align to our values and how we believe that we can be successful. This is just a continuation of what we were just referring to on lever 3. It's important that we talk about extracurricular offerings, identify those programs, whether it's art-based activities or summer activities, So just, I want our trustees to know and our community to know that there's a lot more behind this that we were kind of intending to share. We will certainly capture all of that in the presentation that we post on board docs, but just want to highlight some of the different elements within the Effective Schools framework. And so as we move to level 4, this is where we have to build out the systems that we're going to be using to track and monitor progress. We understand the expectations around the curriculum. We understand the interim assessments that will have to be deployed in order to track progress. Certainly, we expect that whatever we develop in collaboration with our technical partner will be accepted by the agency. But the approach here is that whatever we bring forward, we'll be able to implement with fidelity and will help us understand that when we are in December making that decision, we have everything we need to make an informed decision. As we move to level 5, I think the main point I want to talk about here is that there's going to be some changes in the academic environment within the school. We certainly recognize that there are many, many great things occurring in these campuses, and we want to lean into those. But there are going to be some changes, and if you go to the next slide, you can kind of see what that might look like. Currently, if you kind of look at the first column as current condition, and the column on the right is what we could expect for 25-26. A couple things that we want to point out is the changing in the schedule, going from 4 blocks per day to 5 blocks per day. What this will allow us to do is to not eliminate any electives, which is important. Like, no electives will be lost in this model, but it will ensure that we can provide literacy and math instruction every day, opposed to every other day, which is the current model. You'll see also in the support for teachers that there's going to be expectations regarding professional development. There'll be additional instructional coaches allocated, just a lot of different supports that we'll provide as part of the overall plan. Again, this is just highlighting the elements that will be built out, but ones that we know are going to be expected as we submit this to the agency. Go to the next slide. This has been shared a couple different times, but I wanted to condense it down to one graphic, just to share with our community kind of where we are in the process and what to expect. So we are now in early May at our information session, providing an update. We have been afforded the ability to submit these plans by June 30th, but our goal is to submit them by June 12th. And the main reason for this is that so much is going to occur at the end of the year, and we really need to leverage the month of June to prepare for August. July through August, there'll be a lot of work internally as we build up the school year. We do expect to get feedback shortly after we submit the plans to TEA, whether they're accepted or not. We will assume that they're going to be accepted because we've been collaborating with them along the way. But the milestone I want to call out in August is that we do intend to release an 1882 request for proposals for the 26-27 school year. This will allow us to use the fall semester to evaluate potential partners and if needed, identify a partner that would meet the criteria set by the agency, which again is a partner that has demonstrated turnaround capabilities and experience, as well as a partner that is familiar with the student groups that we're going to be supporting, in this case, middle school. And so as we move into September, October, you see the various milestones for map assessment, when we'll expect to analyze data, the interim testing dates, and the point or the milestone in December that I want to call you to is the 1882 letter of intent, which will be in early December. December 5th or December 12th is the priority submission window from TEA. So if we are going to exercise that option, we would need to submit on December 12th. I want to be very, very clear. That is when we would have to submit. So again, it's imperfect. We will not have all the information but we will be working with our technical partners and the agencies and sharing kind of all the data points we'll have before we even make that informed decision. As we move into the next slide, I just want to point out some of the things that are occurring right now as far as next steps. Because these 3 schools are on the same timeline, these are generalized steps for all 3. We will finalize a district-wide improvement plan. The main thing that I want to share with our trustees is we do have the 3 restarts, but there are other schools, many other schools that we have to provide additional supports for because of what we know regarding 22-23 accountability and 23-24. We will, here in very short order, complete the process of identifying our technical partner, which is an expectation from the agency. We will engage with a communication strategy partner. It's important for us that we are thinking strategically about how we communicate with all of our partners and with our community and with the stakeholders in Austin, because this is a citywide effort. And then our facilitation partner. It's very, very important that we engage, and I think our board knows, and certainly I think our staff and community know that I will be there for every single conversation, and there are going to be a lot of them. So we need to bring partners in to help create bench strength so that we can execute those community engagements efficiently, make sure that we are sharing in what is appropriate and what's needed in the most transparent way, then also getting information that is going to be incorporated into the plans. The other thing I want to point out is that we've evaluated and are near complete the summer programming for this summer. Like, we have to get going now. And so we know that there were some programs already being deployed tied to these schools, but we also have to look at the elementary schools that are feeding into these schools and what programs are occurring there. There were conversations over the last 2 days regarding what was previously being deployed versus what we are going to kind of be pivoting to. So the team can certainly speak to that, and we will in our larger video that we'll show later, I guess early next week or maybe even tomorrow. And then the last piece here is it is really, really important that every single department in this organization understand their role in this overall effort. Similar to how we've tackled the ERP or special education, I need finance to understand their role, operations to understand their role. When it comes to restarts and improvement work, we don't need our campuses to worry about whether the work orders are going to be addressed. We don't need them to worry about all the many other things that our principals and staff have to negotiate on a daily basis. And so we have to be very strategic in how we take that burden off the local campus. Certainly, we don't have the ability to do it everywhere, but in the few instances where we know we have to be hyper-intentional, we can do that, and we expect that to be the case. So I know that was an abbreviated presentation. I apologize because of how brief it was. There is certainly a lot to share, but we're able to answer any questions, and we will be following up with a more robust video online that we'll post to board docs and then post on our website as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and I apologize for the abbreviated nature of this too. We have, a tight situation, so thank you for this. Thank you for doing the work to get it online. We will do our work to make sure our questions that we're hearing from the community and that we have come to you quickly as well. So thank you for that, and I do appreciate the plan to create a turnaround website, page on our website with the individual campuses and just a general, because I know this is going to be a topic of a lot of interest to our community. So thank you for that. Okay, this ends our section on the information reports from the administration. At this time, we will now move into the preview of agenda items that will be considered for a vote at the next regular board meeting on May 22nd. ASD staff is available to answer any questions for tonight's preview, and we will begin with item 7, which is the agenda preview for upcoming board administration items. Any questions on this item? All right, next is section 8, business and finance. Any questions on that? Okay, next is 9, facilities. Right. Next section is 10, talent strategy. Any questions? All right, next section is 11, policy. Questions? All right, and thank you. The next section is 12, other. Any questions on that? Okay, thank you. This ends our regular agenda preview. And on the agenda tonight, we are. Oh, yeah, I'm about to say that. Thank you. So we are going to we're going to recess the open meeting and go into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.074, 551.072, 551.073, 551.087, 551.076, 551.0821, and 551.071. We had a board consolidation priorities retreat planned at the end of this meeting, and to avoid being out of balance on our student outcomes minutes, we will be postponing that item to a future meeting. So thank you for that. We will come back then after our executive session to adjourn the meeting, and that will be included in all recordings of this meeting. So thank you all very much. Hi, we are back because I forgot to say what time we were recessing the open meeting. We are recessing it at 10:30 p.m. and moving to executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.074, 551.072, 551.073, 551.087, 551.076, 551.0821, and 551.071. When we're finished with executive session, we will briefly return to formally adjourn the meeting, and the adjournment will be recorded and included in all replays of tonight's meeting. Thank you for joining us. Hi, we will now reconvene the open meeting at 12:38 a.m. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
The meeting is adjourned at 12:39 a.m. Thank you.